Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk with the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam Gabz, and this is Talk with the Titans. Tonight's show, we've got my brother, my sinner, my saber, my teacher, my brother. What you saying, King? Medicine Man! Hey, yo, Medicine Man! Jeez. Hey, we're there, you know. We're there, you know. We live, baby. We live. All right.
We live, baby.
So you know what? Yeah, let's give them a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about today, King, because we kept them waiting too long.
Trust me. All right. Well, today there's a few things we want to discuss today. The first thing is, so from a Christian, Hebrew or Jewish, Islam, and a Kemetic understanding of where is God. So that's the first one. Where is God? And yeah, that's the first bit. So where is God? That's going to be the first bit from all these different spiritual systems. Also, I think the second one we said we was going to discuss as well is prayer. So who taught the Prophet Muhammad he's how to pray, and what do each movement, what does it represent? Like what do the movements that they do in their prayer, what does that mean? And also we're going to talk a little bit about the prayer system in Kemet. The third thing as well is the Prophet Muhammad the last messenger, or is it Jesus? Yeah. You know, or is it Jesus? We're going to get into that. You know, some people might think, come on, yeah, it's the Prophet Muhammad's the last, but we're going to get into that. And then after that, also, the last bit as well is going to be, did Jesus already come and go? Has Jesus already come and gone, according to the Biblius? According to the Holy Bible. You know, so that's those are the things today. So Brother Kalam, let's go. Let's get this popping. Let's go.
Let's go and have some fun. So before we start off anything, please, family, give us a big round of applause by hitting that like button. Hit the like button now. Thumbs up. And please get your friends, your family, your acquaintances to come in and check out what's going on right now live on Talk with the Titans. Titans TV. Titans TV. So let's do this, my brother. Because you know what, you had a very interesting conversation with my brother Hamza. I enjoyed it. I think a lot of people thoroughly enjoyed it. And, you know, I wanted to actually get involved with some type of Kemetic philosophy, because we never really get to touch on the philosophizing side of things. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the philosophizing side of things. When we start to speculate and start to come to conclusions and use informal logic to come to, you know, a firm conclusion of something. So let us do that right now. Do you want to do that? Do you want to jump into some of our text and get that popping? Let me know.
Yeah. Let's get into some of our text. Let's get into the text.
Let's get into some text. You know, let's give the people certain things that we like to, you know, read at times. We like to ikra at times. So let me go and share this with you. So for those of you guys who actually want to have this, it is a text called the Hermetica. Okay, the Hermetica. You can go right here and check it out. You can go right here. I don't know what's going on with my thing. You know, usually it gives me options. Aha, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, put it like that, and then hopefully stop presenting. Bear with me, family. Bear with me. I know that there is a way of actually getting this on here. Application windows. Nope, I guess not. It really did both at me like that. Okay. I apologize. It's not allowing me to do what I want to do. So I'm just going to share my screen. And let's get it popping. All right, let's get it popping. So,
all right, I just want to say peace to the chat room and peace to the brother Sarah Garvey. I see you there, King. I see you there. And he put a little comment there. Gamza equals Hamza equals Kafid. For those of you that ain't seen that video, that's out there with me and the brother Hamza doing this work. To be fair, I might even touch on a bit of that, because boy, oh boy. You know, it was very, very interesting. Very interesting, to say the least. So peace to everyone in Trust me. Peace to the haters out there, because you know we couldn't be here if it wasn't for the haters. We always need the haters. You know what I mean? Put all your negative energy in there. Only brings out the positive energy in us. You know, positive and negative go hand in hand. So peace to the haters and peace to the people out there with the positive energy. Let's go.
All right, let's get it. Let's get it, King. So, today we're gonna go through a nice little dialogue between. This is how we learn things back in the day. You know, we're having dialogues and actually coming to a firm conclusion of certain things. So, I'm gonna play the role today of Hermes, and you're gonna play the role today of who?
Asclepius.
Asclepius. Oh man.
Asclepius.
Oh man, we're doing this. So for those who don't know who Hermes is you know, in the ancient Egyptian school of thought, his name is known as Jehuti, the 3 times great. And he's also known through various names through the Abrahamic schools. He's known as Hanok or Enoch, and he's also known as Idris as well. And of course, his Greek name is Hermes. His Roman name is Mercury, for those who don't actually know. But we're going to start utilizing the ancient Egyptian, the Kemetic name, which is Jehuti, baby. And and yours is who? What's his name?
Jehuti and Imhotep.
Oh, so yours is Asclepius, which is Imhotep. All right, so let's do this.
Imhotep.
Let's do this. Let's have a quick quick philosophizing section. So, all that is moved, Imhotep, is not moved in something and by something.
Assuredly.
And must not that in which it's moved be greater than the moved?
It must.
Moreover, mover again has greater power than the moved.
It has, of course.
The nature, furthermore, of that in which it's moved must be quite other from the nature of the moved.
It must, completely.
Is not, again, this cosmos vast, so vast that then in there exists no body greater?
Assuredly.
And massive too, for it is crammed with multitudes of other frames, nay, rather, all the other bodies that there are.
It is.
And yet cosmos is a body?
It is a body.
And one that's moved?
Assuredly.
Of what size, then, must be the space in which it's moved? And of what kind must be the nature of that space? Must it not be vaster than the cosmos in order that it may be able to find room for its continued course, so that the moved may not be crammed for want of room and lose its motion?
Something thrice greatest. One, it needs must be immensely vast.
And of what nature must it not be, Asclepius? Of just the contrary, and is not contrary to body bodiless?
Agreed.
Space then is bodiless, but bodiless must either be some godlike thing or God himself. And by some godlike thing, I mean no more the generable, but the ingenerable. If then space be some godlike thing, it is substantial. But if 'tis God himself, it transcends substance. But it is to be thought of otherwise than God. And in this way, God is first thinkable for us, not for himself, for that the thing that's thought doth fall beneath the thinker's sense. God then cannot be thinkable unto himself, in that he is thought of by himself as being nothing else than what he thinks. But he is something else for us, and so he's thought of by us. If space is therefore to be thought, it should not then be thought as God, but space. If God is also to be thought, he should not be conceived as space, but energy that can contain all space. Further, all that is moved not in the moved, but in the stable. And that which moves another is, of course, stationary, for it's impossible that it should move with it. I know Sarah's going to have a field day right now, but go ahead.
How is it, then, that things down here, thrice greatest, one are moved with those that are already moved? For thou hast said the earnest spheres were moved by the inherent one.
This is not O Asclepius, a moving with but one against. They are not moved with one another, but one against the other. I is this contrariety, which turneth the resistance of their motion into rest, for that resistance is the rest of motion. Hence, too, the errant spheres, being moved contrarily to the inerrant one, are moved by one another by mutual contrariety, and also by the stable one through contrariety itself. And this can otherwise not be. The bears up there, I'm saying up there, look up, Asclepius, look up. I'm talking about the stars, which neither set nor rise. Thinkest thou they rest or move?
They move, thrice greatest one.
And what their motion, my Asclepius?
Motion that turns forever round the same.
But revolution, motion, round same is fixed by rest. For round the same doth stop, beyond same. Beyond same then being stopped, if it be steadied in round same. The contrary stands firm, being rendered ever stable by its contrariety. Of this I'll give thee here on earth an instance, which the eye can see. Regard the animals down here. A man, for instance, swimming. The waters moves, yet the resistance of his hands and feet give him stability, so that he is not borne along with it, nor sunk thereby.
Thou hast thrice greatest one, adduced a most clear instance.
All motion then is caused in station and by station. The motion therefore of the cosmos and of every other hylic animal will not be caused by things exterior to the cosmos, but by things interior to the exterior, such things as soul or spirit, or some such thing, other thing incorporeal. 'Tis not its body that doth move the living thing in it. Nay, not even the whole body of the universe is a lesser, but in thou there be no life in it.
What meanest thou by this, thrice greatest one? Is it not bodies then that move the stock and stone and all other things inanimate?
By no means, O Asclepius. There's something in the body, that which moves the thing innate. This surely is not a body, for that it moves the two of them, both body of the lifter and the lifted, so that a thing that's lifeless will not move a lifeless thing. That which doth move another thing is animate, in that it is the mover. Thou seest then how heavy laden is the soul, for it alone doth lift two bodies. That things moreover moved are moved in something as well as moved by something is clear.
Yeah, O thrice greatest one. Things moved must needs be moved in something void.
Thou sayest well, O my Asclepius, for naught of things that are is void. Alone there is not its void, and stranger to subsistence, for that which is subsistence can never change to void.
Are there then, O thrice great one, no such thing as many as an empty cask? For instance, an empty jar, a cup and a vat, and other things like unto them.
Alack, Asclepius, for thy far wandering from the truth, thinkest thou that things most full and most replete are void?
How meanest thou, thrice greatest one?
Is not air body?
It is.
And doth this body not pervade all things, and so pervading fill them? And doth body not consist from blending of the four? Full then of air are all thou callest void, and if of air, then of the four. Further of this, the converse follows, that all that thou callest full are void of air, for that they have their space filled out with other bodies, and therefore are not able to receive the air therein. These then which thou dost say are void, they should be hollow named, not void, for they not only are, but they are full of air and spirit.
Thy argument, Logos, thrice greatest one, is not to be gainsaid. Air is a body. Further, it is the body which doth pervade all things, and so, pervading, fill them. What are we then to call that space in which all doth move?
The bodiless, Asclepius.
What then is bodiless?
'Tis mind and reason, logos, whole of whole, out of whole, all self-embracing, free from all body, from all error, free, unsensible to body, and untouchable, self-state in self, containing all, persevering those that are, whose rays to use a likeness are good, truth, light, beyond light, the archetype of soul.
What then is God?
Not any of these is he, for he it is that causeth them to be, both, all, and each, and everything of all that are. Nor hath he left a thing besides that is not, but they are all from things that are, and not from things that are not. For that the things that are not have naturally no power of being anything, but rather have the nature of the inability to be. And conversely, the thing that are have not the nature of something, time not being.
What sayest thou ever? Then God is.
God, therefore, is not mind, but cause that the mind is. God is not spirit, but cause that spirit is. God is not light, but cause that the light is. Hence, should one honor God with these two names, God the good and Father, names which pertain to him alone and no one else. For no one of the other so-called gods, no one of men or daemons can be in any measure good, but God alone, and he is good alone and nothing else. The rest of things are separable all from the good's nature, for all the rest are soul and body, which have no space that can contain the good. For that as mighty is the greatness of the good as is the being of all that are, both bodies and things bodiless, things sensible and intangible things. Call not thou therefore aught else good, for thou wouldest impious be, nor anything at all at any time call God, but good alone. For so thou wouldest again be impious. Though then the God is spoken of by all, it is not understood by all. God is spoken by all, but not understood by all. What thing it is, not only then is God not understood by all, but both unto the gods and some of men, they out of ignorance do give the name of good, though they can never either be or become good. For they are very different from God, while God can never be distinguished from him, for that God is the same as good. The rest of the immortal ones are nevertheless honored with the name of God and spoken of as gods, but God is good, not out of courtesy, but out of nature, for that God's nature and the good is one. One is the kind of both, from which all other kinds proceed. The good is he who gives all things and naught receives. God then doth give all things and receive naught. God then is good, and good is God. The other name, let me finish it off real quickly because it's the last bit. The other name of God is Father, again, because he is that which maketh all. The part of Father is to make. Wherefore child making is a very great and a most pious thing in life for them who think aright, and to leave life on earth without a child, a very great misfortune and impiety. And he who hath no child is punished by the demons after death. And this the punishment that the man's soul who hath no child shall be condemned unto a body with neither man's nor woman's nature, a thing accursed beneath the sun. Wherefore, Asclepius, let not your sympathies be with the man who hath no child, but rather pity his mishap, knowing what punishment abides for him. Let all that has been said then be to the Asclepius an introduction to the gnosis of the nature of all things. Now, that was a bloody mouthful. A bloody mouthful. Yeah.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. That was a bloody mouthful. And you know that last section there? Do you know who that was a shout out to? Guess who that was a shout out to?
You know?
That was a shout out to Respect, you know.
Yeah, brother Ras.
You know why? You know why that was a shout out to brother Respect?
No, please tell me.
Because you know he likes the bonfire punchichi, man.
Yeah.
That's the
It's true,
Kemetic.
you know?
That's the Kemetic teachings on Chichi, man. It says, you know what? Just you know what? Rather just pity his mishap, knowing what punishment abides for him. No, let me go on a little bit further up. Sorry. For those who don't know. And this the punishment that the man's soul who hath no child should be condemned unto a body with neither man nor woman's nature. Okay. A thing accursed beneath the sun. Something that is actually cursed beneath the sun. I wonder what else is cursed beneath the sun. Wherefore, Asclepius, let not your sympathies be with the man who hath no child, but rather pity his mishap, knowing what punishment abides for him. And let all that has been said then be to thee, Asclepius, an introduction to the gnosis of nature of all things. So that was a quick little shout out to Raspek for those who actually understand and know it. I do apologize, family members. I know family, we don't usually read out scriptures like that for such a long period of time, but I thought it was actually imperative that we should actually give the family back something. So for those people who would actually like to read more about the Hermetica, this is the ancient Egyptian Jehuti teachings. Jehuti teachings. You can simply go online and type in Hermetica and PDF, and you should get a nice copy of it on there. I do apologize as well. It is not the most easiest read. There are other Hermeticas out there, especially this one. Real quickly, like this one right here. This is most probably one of the most better reads by Brian P. Copehaven. Much better than that particular read. Or that particular version of the book that we just read out. So I do apologize yet again. And let's try to actually explain some of those things in real terms, because we just done a whole load of reading right there. And I think it went over most people's head. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say something though. Something did come to my mind actually. And this is even coming from the Christian text. The bit that we just read there when he he said about the man and woman having children. Yeah, I remember if you go to the beginning in Genesis in the Bible, what was one of the first things that God said to the man and woman?
The very first commandment in the Bible is to go forth and multiply and replenish the earth.
All right then. So then that I can see now where that goes hand in hand with what we just read in the Hermetica, talking about the man and woman to go forth and have the kids. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can still kind of see the similarities there.
And you can also see the similarities in Jesus' teachings. I saw, there is one teaching in Jesus that Jesus says, "Don't call me good. There is no man that is good but the Father." That's another little. See? You know the way is there. We all know he was another little. We all know he was well studied in Egypt, right? According to the Biblos. So we can kind of see where these teachings arise from. Obviously, this is written 200 BC, 300 to 200 BC. Obviously, the teachings go way further back than that, but we can see where certain people may just be getting their inspiration from. So one of the key things I actually like to bring up was to do with let me just get it quickly. Everything that is moved, everything moved is moved in something and by something. So that was one of the key things I actually wanted to bring up, because most people who know about moved objects that are moving other objects are actually, the process of moving means that you are inside a place in order for you to move. You with me? Is that clear? I hope it's clear. Okay. In order for you to move something, there must first be another item to move, number one, and you must be in a place to move something. Okay. So, and that ties directly into your conversation with Brother Hamza. Okay. With Brother Hamza, you was having this conversation of where is Allah? Where is Allah? And, if Allah rose above his throne, where was he prior? Wasn't that the question you asked?
Yeah, that was one of the questions. That was one part of it that he went into. Where was Allah? The first part was, what did he create? The creation, where did creation come from? And he said he created out of nothing. So the whole creation out of nothing thing, and then we slowly moved into where is Allah. So the first bit, now I'm not gonna lie, the first bit I want to tackle, and I want people to understand this, because I went back and watched the video, and if people can't watch that video and see when I answered that question, when I asked him that question, answered me, and then what I said. So basically it went something like this. I said to him, he said to me, he got advice actually from a fellow brother. You could see in the video, he's getting advice because it seemed like the questions I was giving him was putting him on the ropes. So then the brother obviously advised him of a question and said, Allah creates from nothing. So then he then said to me, yes, Gabs, Allah creates from nothing. And I said, what, nothing? He said, yes, absolute nothing. He creates from nothing. So then I was like, okay. So Allah creates from nothing. So nothing. So then prior to creation, prior to any creation, what was there? And then the one brother said nothing. And then Hamza said, God. Then I said, I beg your pardon? What was there? Then he said, God. So then I said, okay, so if prior to creation, there was only God, where did nothing come from? You see what I'm saying? Because prior to creation, if there's just only God, where did this whole thing of nothing come from? There can't be nothing if God is the only thing that's there. God is the thing. So where did the nothing come from? If there's only God, because there's some people in the comment section and people that have watched it that don't seem to get what I'm saying. If there is only God, there's no creation yet, nothing's been made. All it is just God. Where did nothing come from? Because God is something. He's not nothing. God is something. So where did the nothing come from? This is the simple question I asked him. And then if you look in the video, you will see even some of the Muslim brothers next to me was like, do you know what? Actually, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, actually, yeah. Everybody went quiet. Even Hamza went quiet for a bit. And then after that, you see that he started shuffling. You know what I mean? The question hit him in his chest. And I can see it was making his chest warm. You know that warm medicine? It was like, what's that medicine that you take as a child you don't like? What's that nasty cod liver oil medicine? That's what it was like. You know, you take a spoon of cod liver oil medicine and you put that face like that. That's the face he had, like that. Yeah. You couldn't deal with that question. And then as the video goes on, you see that Brother Hamza started changing the subject. You wouldn't even let me speak. And then we went on to a whole other topic. But please, I'm saying to anybody out there, if you're using your brain, this is the question for people in the chat room. If prior to creation, there is only God, please explain to me where nothing comes from. Please. So one more time. If there's only God prior to creation, the people in the chat room, where does nothing come from?
Boy, I don't know. And you know what? Yeah. Again, with inside of the Kemetic understanding, there is no such thing as nothing, you know. There's no such thing as nothing. Let me actually get you the quote here that talks about it still. Okay. It says here, you know, earlier on when you mentioned something, you said something like, you know, as Asclepius, you said, must things that are moved be moved in emptiness, Trismus Gestis? And I said to you, in near enough lines like, shut your mouth, G. Man, hold it down. It says here, hold your tongue, Asclepius. Not one of the things that are is empty by reason of their sustainability. For a being could not be a being if it were not full of substance. The subsistence can never become empty. That's the wrong word to use. There's no such thing as emptiness or nothingness. Are not some things empty, Trismus Gestis, such as a pail or pot or vat or such things? What a great mistake, Asclepius. Would you consider empty the things that are entirely, completely full? So the way you're looking at a pot or a cup as being empty is completely not empty. It's definitely not empty. It's completely full. What does that mean? It says here, air is a body, yes? Yes, it is a body. But does not this body pervade everything that exists and fills them all by pervading them? And a body is a mixture constituent of the four elements, is it not so? Of course. So all those things that you call empty are full of air. But if they are full of air, they are also full of the four bodies. And so it turns out that contrary accounts comes to light, that the things that you call full are all empty of air, since they are crowded with these other bodies and have no place to take in the air. Therefore, the things you call empty must be named hollow rather than empty, for in their substance they are full of air and spirit. Your reasoning is irrefutable, Trismus Gestis. So what we have said of the place in which the universe is moved. So anyways, that's a key point right there. You know, people talk about the whole there's nothingness in the universe and so forth. Like, Any scientist knows about that being actually a fallacy, because there's no such thing as nothingness or nothing. The nothingness has something within inside of it. You with me, my brother? So, for example, I don't know if you know about this and the whole the Big Bang and all them things there. You know about the Big Bang, and you know, and there's nothing existing before the Big Bang. No, there's actually things existing, but it's just not measurable. And those measurable things, like, you know, I had this conversation back in the day with my teacher. You know, my teacher, you know, we were talking about vacuums and things like that, and I said, I was like, nah, fam, like, that don't make no sense. How do you know that there is no other thing within inside of a vacuum? Okay, there may just be one thing inside of the vacuum. Why do I say that there may just be one thing inside of the vacuum? Because in order to measure the one, or to measure something within inside of a vacuum, there must be two particles bouncing off each other for you to see the interaction, for there to be something observable. You with me? But if there is just a vacuum and there is just one particle, there is no bouncing off or anything, so it's not measurable like that. But in quantum physics, we fully well know that this, in terms of a vacuum, or what we'll call the nu or the nun, okay, with inside of the nun, and you have all of these forces that's going on. You know about nun, nunet, he, ket, kiket, amun, amunet. These are the infinite space, the infinity of space, the darkness, you know, the infinite darkness, the infinite spirit realm, the infinite waters, and so forth. There is these waves that are taking place that's not measurable until the atom principle jumps up into the air, reverberates, and causes a nice big wave or a circular motion of vibration taking place. That principle there is known as the quantum fluctuation. The quantum fluctuation, where something out of the nothingness, the supposed nothingness or the vacuum within inside of the quantum field, actually jumps up and causes a chain reaction and a process which is known as the Big Bang, or the singularity that causes the inflation and the Big Bang and so forth, and the radiation. Like, that is it right there. But most people are unaware of it because they think it's just nothingness. There is never no nothingness. Everything always has existed in one shape, form, or another. All it is just energy transferring from one particular form into another particular form, or energy becoming mass or becoming matter. I know Sarah's going to love that. I know Sarah loves that, the whole energy talk right there. But go ahead, King. Go ahead, King.
I was going to say one thing, because seriously, this is what I want us to interact with the people in the chat room and our people, you know what I mean, with everybody, because these are just questions and stuff that we have. That's all. We're not trying to belittle anyone, but these are just questions that come into our mindset when we're dealing with people from a religious background. Because, like, let's, even if we deal with from a religious background, so anyone who's a Christian or Muslim that's in the chat room, I want to ask a simple question. What do they call the absence of God? So if the absence of God is what? So something where God doesn't dwell is what?
There is no way that God doesn't dwell, though.
No, but what do they call that? Because I'm sure I've heard from some religious people, especially maybe the Christians, correct me if I'm wrong, they say anything that the absence of God would be a place like hell. Hell is the absence of God. Yeah, is that true? I want to throw that into the group, into the chat. Anyone in the chat room, please let me know if I'm right or if I'm mistaken. A place where God doesn't reside, you could basically call that hell. Yes or no?
We're gonna have to wait. Let's see what they're saying.
Anyone in the chat room? A place where God doesn't dwell is hell?
We're reading the questions right now. It says no. Extremely Balanced TV says no.
No. So no what? What does it mean by no? Like, so no, God dwells in hell?
I don't know. You know what I'm gonna do? Should I invite some of them on? Should I invite some of them on? Let me throw let me throw the link in here to see if we can invite them on, so we can get some answers.
Someone said hell is the separation from God. So yeah, so that's my point. So hell, someone just said hell is the separation from God. So if hell is the separation from God, that means God is not there then, isn't it? God wouldn't be present there in hell. If it's a separation from God, if you're separate, that means you're away. So God is somewhere and hell is somewhere else where God isn't. Yeah? Let me see what people are saying. Yeah, you're right. So then this is my point now, because the reason why I asked is because if hell is a place that is separate where God is not, yeah, will we then say hell could we now say that nothing also could be hell, because nothing does unless we're saying nothing contains God. Does nothing contain God, or is nothing not God? So that's my question. Is nothing God, or is nothing not God? Can anybody ask that question for me? Is nothing God, or is nothing God? Someone said they're confused. Yeah. The reason why I'm saying it, think about it. If nothing is not God, yeah, then nothing could also be hell, which is also the separation of God. Which then, if we're going into this whole creation thing, when people say God created everything out of nothing, so that's basically God creating himself from hell, out of hell. Yeah? The wicked place where we will go, God created everything. Supposedly, if we're going to go by the religious text. That's if we're going to agree and say that God created creation out of nothing. Because to
Peace,
me,
Gabs.
nothing would be hell, because it's just nothing. Yes, sir. What's popping?
Yeah, but then isn't God everywhere? So wouldn't he be in hell as well?
Yeah, he would. No, this is why I'm just saying this for the religious people. I understand this. I understand that, but I'm just giving it to religious people, because people are going to say God created out of nothing, yeah? So I'm saying nothing is obviously the separation of God. If nothing can't be God, because it's nothing. So, which would be separation from God, which is obviously what someone just said, which is hell. So now, are we saying that God created everything from hell? Do you see what I'm saying?
Good question. However,
so this is what I want to. Yeah.
You know me already. I said that there can be no nothing. It's just God, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
100%, bro. I know this.
I
know this. This is just for those people. This is just for my religious brothers out there that say God created from nothing. I need to understand at what point, when did nothing come into existence? What is nothing? Is God nothing? Because remember, like I just said, the question that I put out there is, if prior to creation, what was there? If prior to creation it was just God, when does nothing enter the equation? That's all.
Legitimate question.
You know
Someone
what?
said nothing is not God, all is God.
It seems though we have some Muslims and even a Kabbalist in here, so maybe they can answer this question. So, my Muslim brother, are you there?
Oh yeah, cool.
Muslim brother, are you there? Okay. Rich kid. Salam. Go ahead, King.
Oh no, that's just my name just in Arabic. I'm not a Muslim though.
Okay.
But can I hop into Islamic boxing and answer the question from the Islamic perspective?
Go ahead, King. Do it.
Well, logically, I would have to accept that God is everything and everywhere. But theologically, if I was a Muslim, I would have to reject the question and say that there's actually no such thing as nothing, in the sense that God can't.
Oh, what happened? Where did he go?
Allah don't want him to talk.
He might come back in a little while. But go ahead, medicine man. Go on. Keep it flowing.
Someone said Gabs' teeth too shiny. Thank you. I do try to brush them every day, twice a day, maybe 3 times if I'm lucky. Thank you. But yeah, sorry. Let's go back again. Yeah, I saw someone did mention something. I did want to go back to. Hold on. Someone said something in the chat room. Where is it gone? Where's it gone? Hold on a minute. Okay, someone said, I think it was Salim Makwali. He said, nothing is not God equals all is God. Yeah? So nothing but all is God. So then this goes back to my question then. If prior to creation, if it was just God, yeah, if there was only God and not nothing, where would the creation have come from? That's my main point. Where would the creation have come from? And that's my first question, because I've got a part two, which is basically the medicine. It's basically the, you know, you normally take two medicines sometimes for the extra dose just to help. That's just one medicine pill, but I've got a medicine pill coming. So I'm just going to throw that question out and wait to see what people say.
You see what, yeah? I always hear this, you know, creating out of nothing talk, yeah? But I always want to know, is this actually backed by scriptures? Because I've never read anywhere in any of those scriptures that God ever said he created out of nothing. So I want to know where that even comes from.
I'm sure, isn't it, when with the Muslims, they normally say kun fayakun, be. And it is, I think that is the actual, that is just that line alone is which they use to substantiate that he created from nothing.
You know what, Kalam? Peace, family. You know what? That's a great point. It's just like when they say God is outside space and time, and I'm thinking, are you guys just saying that because of what you know about science and whatnot today in 2017? You guys are saying that because if we look in their Quran or their Hadiths or even the Bible, whatever, we cannot see anywhere where it says God or Allah is outside of space and time. So I feel like they're just saying that as an excuse, you know what I mean?
I hear you. I think there's a lot of makeup artists going on, you know, around these days.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to use an Islamic term and say it's bid'ah, actually. It's bid'ah.
It's bid'ah, yeah. It's innovation, exactly.
It's innovation. I don't know where they get this from.
And another point is someone mentioned, I think his brother Gabz mentioned the kun fayakun. I always ask Muslims this: can you show me one example, just one, in the Quran or the Hadiths where kun fayakun was developed, like where Allah said kun fayakun and like something appeared, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I think,
right.
That's the same argument.
You know what I mean? And I asked them, like, for example, like if you go to the creation story of Adam, right, for example, right, you can see that Allah is making Adam and from mud or whatever, he's using his hands or whatever, right? And Adam's saying, "Oh, Allah finished me before sunset." So you just ask the Muslims, why didn't Allah just say kun fayakun and boom, Adam's developed 100%? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's bid'ah. It's just, they're just coming up with modern things to kind of, you know, like, how do you say, like, put the rug over the hole. You see what I'm saying? yeah. Let's speak.
I like that. The rug over the hole.
Yeah, man.
Jeez. My brother went in, you know. So yeah, for real. Like all of these things, I always think to myself, I've read so much, and I've never seen anywhere, you know, the same thing that my brother said that, oh, well, Allah is outside of space and time. Where'd you get that from? I need what's the word? I need dalil, akhi. I need dalil. I don't see any dalil. What's the other one that they say?
Yeah.
You know,
the evidence, the dalil.
Yeah, God really says, you know, like God creates out of nothing. Name me one thing he created out of nothing. He created man out of clay or dust or mud or water.
The angels out of nur,
like
light,
whatever. He created Adam out of so many different objects. You know, if you ask, you know, depending on the first chapter that's revealed in the Quran, you might think he was created out of congealed blood. You read somewhere else, you think, you know, chapter 2, you might think he's created Adam out of clay. You read another chapter, you think he's created out of black mud. Read another chapter, you think he's created out of water. So, you know, but
God's confused, man. Got confused.
But yet there is no contradictions in the Quran. So I'm not going to say there is. There is just discrepancies that can be, you know, aligned somehow if we do mental gymnastics. So, you know, there's all these other things here, you know, like, oh, so name me one thing. I remember I said that to a reminder. Name me one thing God created out of nothing. Just one thing. One thing. And then we had the big conversation about khalik or khalq. And then the other term was, what's the word? Bada. or something else, something like that. Oh, Allah originates and creates. Anytime he uses the terms create, he creates out of something. But when he uses the terms bada, it's originating from nothing. I'm like, okay, let's go into the
what did he create the pen from?
Good question.
You see?
Good question.
Yeah. And his throne. And his throne.
And the throne, yeah.
And his throne that was hovering.
Yeah.
What did he create that from?
And the clouds.
What about his shin?
But then you see,
that sexy shin, man. That beautiful shin, man.
Low blow.
But you see when you said it was very interesting when you said that, Kalam, that they say God is outside of space and time, right? And but then he says Allah was hovering above his throne. So we know as human beings, yeah, and for anything to exist, it has to exist within a space. There must be a space for it to exist within, right? So Allah must be in a space. And I've asked Muslims, they said, oh, there's 7 spaces. There are 7 different spaces. I'm like, well, that's still a space then. So what space of those 7 spaces does Allah actually occupy? And they say, oh, he's outside of that space. So then if he's outside of that space, there must be an 8th space where he occupies then. Do you know what I mean? Like he must be in the 8th space that no one don't talk about. Is that, you know, is that unlocked level that you didn't even know was there until you clock the other levels and you're like, what? There's another level, and it's like
the hidden level, the hidden track.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, that's like, actually peak still.
Boy, I thought he was occupying his throne. Isn't that a place?
Exactly, but then that must exist in a space, right?
And you know, it's funny when you ask Muslims, because they say supposedly that Allah is hovering over his throne. It's like, what's the point of creating a throne if you're floating over that? Why don't you sit down on your throne? You know what I mean?
Because the throne is dirty. Have you never been to a toilet before? Never been to a public toilet, and then you're just like, nah, fam, I'm not sitting down.
You gotta put that toilet paper on it. Allah does that toilet paper.
There must be no toilet paper remaining.
You lot are on your troll. You lot on your trolling thing today.
But you know what? Yeah, that's only what they say. Because when you actually read their literature, it actually says that he is sitting down on his throne. It actually says,
of course,
several times that he's sitting down on his throne. But yeah,
like I told you, Callum, that it's they're finding holes. So they're putting different rugs on it. You know, the rugs making the floor look nice. You know, it's a patch up job. You know what I mean? They're carpenters like Jesus. You know what I mean?
I understand why they never want to say sitting down on the throne, because they don't want to admit that.
Where were the religious people? Because I want to know. I want to get a perspective. Is Pentecostal in? I don't know, any Christians.
Oh, where's that brother?
Or in the hangout, because I want to get their perspective on this whole thing about Allah creating from nothing, and then where is he? I actually want us to deal with this tonight. I want us to deal, because I want people have this in their mind. Go out, and if you're not religious, or you are, go out and ask these questions to your imam, your pastor, your mom who's a Christian, your dad who's a Christian, whoever. Just ask them. Just say, where is Allah, and did he create from nothing? And if he did create, where did it come from? If it was just him prior to creation. Because these are serious questions, you know. But when I was saying these things and I looked at the video, you got people here, which I called them the Walking Dead, the zombies. That's why they brought out the TV series, because boy, there is some serious zombies in this world. You know what I mean? And they need that medicine, bro, because boy, don't let them zombies bite you, because if them zombies bite you, you end up like a rat. Now I'm joking. That's a look.
No, but the thing is, Gabz, the thing is, Gabz, you understand that you're talking to a people, who are actually not allowed to think outside the confines of the box they've been given. Do you see what I'm saying? So the frustration comes, like, you handled it well for me. Do you get what I'm saying? I probably would have got a little bit more frustrated, because I knew that you were asking very legitimate questions and people were acting like you're the stupid one.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they're acting like you're the one that's dumb. And it's like, well, like, the question's actually legitimate. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you acting like Gabz is kind of like he's dumb? Like, you guys aren't thinking outside the box that you've been given. So for me, that is very frustrating to have a conversation with someone like that.
Yeah. It's true, man. It's true. It's true, man. It's true. Do you know what, yeah, all it is I'm just actually sitting back and I'm looking and I'm thinking, I need to understand this. I need to know. Do you know what I mean? I need to know because look, like I said, if I'm going to put myself and my spirit and my so-called eternity into somebody's hands, yeah, I need to know exactly which one for sure is the right one. And if you got people that can't answer questions, they can't answer questions. You got people bouncing from different religions to different religions because they're confused. They say one's the truth. Nah, actually, no, that's not the truth. This one's the truth. The truth. Let me go back to this one. Actually, I just found out. Nah, this is not the truth. If people are doing that and people are not answering my questions, I'm not getting myself involved in none of this stuff. And I'm just gonna stick to what I know, yeah, and what I'm trying to know and understand and gain knowledge. Nature doesn't have to. Nature doesn't care what I believe, what I think. Nature doesn't care what I wear. Nature don't care what I ate last night. Well, some parts of nature does, but care. Do you know what I mean? But most of these belief systems that we have, for some reason, they care. They care about what you're eating, who you're looking at, what you're watching, what you're wearing, what's this, what's that. You know what I mean? How many times are you doing this? Or maybe you need to do this as many times because you won't go here. It just sounds like a parent. You know what's there? You know, like a parent and their child. Make sure you wash your hands because if you don't wash your hands, you're not gonna get dinner. Do you know what I mean? Make sure you brush your teeth, go to bed because you don't brush your teeth, your teeth are gonna fall out. All of these things. But guess what? Nature's the only thing that don't care. It just does what it is. It's just there. It just is. And nature goes by nature. Things in nature don't go by what other things are saying. So, like I say, the sun isn't going to the moon. Yo, bro, why are you shining like that at night? Do you know what I mean? What is your purpose? the sun's not saying to me, what's your purpose? The wind is not saying to the clouds, yo, do you know what I mean? What is you guys' purpose? Do you see what I'm saying? It's just doing what it knows, and that's it. The sun is doing what it knows, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? It all knows its role, it knows its position. And that's it.
Jeez. All right. So you saying, Gabz, since we're not even getting no takers,
Yeah.
we're not getting any takers at all, what you saying? Should we switch it up?
Yeah.
Go on, man.
Yeah, we can switch it up because for some reason I can see, I know them questions that I answered, some loaded questions. Those are some big questions, that make you even start questioning your belief. Do you know what I mean? Them questions, you actually got to sit down and take time. Because remember, I told you that's a big, heavy dose of medicine there. You got to take time with it sometimes. So them questions, maybe, I don't know, in another show or something like that, somebody might come, or we might get someone who's listening that comes in and says, listen, I have the answer to the question. And then we can get to the bottom of it. But right now, I can't see nobody saying anything. No one ain't really saying nothing, and I've just thrown it out there. We got how many people are viewing?
There's over 85 people tuned in right now. Furthermore, can we get some likes?
Over 85.
Can we get some likes, family? We got over 85 people tuned in right now, and I'm only seeing a certain amount of numbers of likes. So please, family, if you support Titans TV, give us a big thumbs up. If you love the Medicine Man, Medicine Man 2017, give us some thumbs up. Let us know that you're loving the show so far. And if you want to get it in, man, where's my Hindus at? My Sikhs at? My Jewish brothers at? My Muslims at? Come on, man, show some love, man. Let's get it in. Kemet is on the horizon. Let's go.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, about of 85 people or 86 plus people that are tuning in, no one ain't come out with the questions. Everyone's just there ain't no religious, but no one ain't come out and said anything, which is fine. You don't have to bring the answer straight away. Take time. You know what I mean? We ain't going nowhere. We're still here. You know, we here, baby. We here. So yeah, brother. If you want to switch up the topic, and we'll go into the next part. We said we was gonna talk up. Maybe we can get more people involved and stuff.
All right, you name it, man. You tell me, man. I don't even know. I don't even know again what we're going to be discussing.
What was it? What was the other part of what we said? So, I know what. Sorry, nah, that's what I was going to get into. Okay, the next bit that I wanted to get into. So this is out. There's another question out there to anybody in the chat room or anyone in the panel. Is the Prophet Muhammad the last messenger? Or is it Jesus? That's my question. and we can move on that. Let's see how the water flows.
But that's technically that's only to the Islamic ears. That's only to the Islamic ears, right? Because I know my Christians ain't accepting no Muhammad as no prophet, and I know my Jews ain't accepting no Muhammad or Jesus as no prophet, and surely Kemet, I know y'all ain't accepting them as your prophets neither, or maybe some of you do. Some of you do actually. To be honest with you, I ain't gonna lie, some of you do. So let's see. So this is to my Muslim followers out there. Let's see if we can get y'all to think a little bit. Can we get y'all to think for a little bit? Can we do it? Let's see if we can do it. So my Muslim followers, let me know. Yeah, let me know. Is Muhammad the last prophet or prophet and messenger, or is there another one in the form of Yeshua or Isa ibn Maryam? Let me know. Let me know, family. Let me know. And Anonymous says here, could you talk about the Kemetic God and our purpose for according to Kemet? I got you, my brother. I got you. Times TV Gabz, do you believe in the supernatural? Whew.
The supernatural.
Manny.
Now what would you say the supernatural is? That's at first. We need to define what is the supernatural. What are you saying the supernatural is? And that's who asked that question?
That was from my brother Just Facts.
Yeah. What would you say the supernatural is? First.
Boy, I don't know, you know. I know the natural world could be very super. Every time I see
some natural things that are very super.
Every time I see a shooting star, I'm like, jeez, that's super. But it's still part of the natural world.
There you go.
So let's get it in. Talk to me, Gabz.
I'm just looking at a question. Someone just said, Prophet Jesus will come back and defeat the Antichrist and live 40 years above Muhammad in the final and final years. Obviously, Muhammad is the final messenger. Okay, that's from Amir Hussein. Okay. So Jesus is coming back. Okay, Jesus is the prophet according to the Muslims. He's coming back to wage war and defeat Antichrist, but obviously because there's the number of disbelief stuff has risen very, very high. So that's the reason for Jesus's return. So then now he said Jesus will return and live 40 years. So I want to know to Amir Hussein, in the 40 years when Jesus returns, would he be delivering any messages? Will he be speaking to the people for them 40 years? Or will he just be silent? Is he just going to wage a war and then that's it? He's just going to sit down and just chill for 40 years? Because if he's still talking to those disbelievers and giving out messages, then you would still kind of see him as a prophet delivering, still see him as another messenger coming back to deliver a message to those people at that time. Do you see what I'm saying? So by default, you would actually say Jesus is the final messenger, because to those people, whoever's there for 40 years, remember, some people could die 40 years, people are born in 40 years. Do you know what I mean? In those 40 years, if he's there living on the earth for 40 years, surely he's going to be talking to those people on the earth and delivering some form of message.
You know what, Gabz? Yeah, that's a good point, because the Muslims, they claim, he'll come back, he'll destroy the cross, he'll defeat the boogeyman Antichrist, some one-eyed Cyclops demon guy who's gonna claim to be God, and he's gonna defeat him, and then he's gonna be preaching Islam. Supposedly, he's gonna be telling people to come to Allah, Tawheed, blah blah. You know what I mean? And so really, he is delivering a message, because the Muslims, they will say Jesus' first mission was incomplete, right? Because Allah had to raise him up to heaven. He was about to be killed. So his second coming in Islamic theology is going to be the complete mission. You know what I mean? He's going to He's gonna come and do what he didn't do the first time, which is supposedly teach Islam and bring people in. He's gonna be a king.
His message.
Yeah, and he's also gonna be a king, or the Muslims claim he's gonna be a king ruling over the world or whatever. I don't know if he's ruling over only the Islamic world or the whole world, but they claim he's gonna be a king ruler and he's gonna bring people to Islam. So that's another contradiction. If Muhammad is the last messenger, why isn't it Muhammad who comes back? Or why isn't Muhammad finish the job? Why is it Jesus has to come back? So that's another madness, another contradiction, you know?
You see now? So this is what I'm trying to say. So then, Amir Hussein, it's a good point with Brother Dart just mentioned there. It's true. You know what I mean? If the Prophet Isa is coming back to defeat, he's the one that's coming back to defeat the Dajjal, yeah, the Antichrist, yeah, to crush the cross, and also bring the message of Tawheed and the teachings of Allah. At time, to those people at that time, would he be seen as a messenger? So then, well, in that instance, then we would say, you'd have to say that Jesus is the final messenger. He is the final prophet. He's the final messenger. He's the final prophet that come back, and also he's the final warrior, because he's the one that's coming back to fight. Do you know what I mean? The final warrior, the final messenger, and the final prophet. Please, if anyone in the chat room disagrees with what we're saying here and thinks it doesn't make no sense, please say. But to me, that just makes some sense, because he's going to be on the earth reigning as a king supposedly for 40 years, or I don't know how many years he's going to be on. Surely he's going to be delivering messages to the people. He's going to be teaching and telling them certain stuff, because these were the people that were disbelieving. That's why he had to come back. So wouldn't that make him a messenger to those people if he's coming back and giving them a message and teaching them?
Hey,
Where the Muslims at?
man, I don't think they want it, you know. Today they don't want it. They don't want it
They
today.
don't want it. Well, today, I think the medicine's too peak today, you know, because I hear crickets. I ain't gonna lie. You know when you hear crickets, you know what I'm feeling? You just hear crickets. Because I know for a fact there's some Muslims in that chat. I know there's Muslims. What I know there is. I know it. But I understand some of this information that you're hearing today, you probably ain't thought about that before. You're probably thinking, whoa, yeah, that's kind of true. Like, yeah. Because we always say that the Prophet Muhammad is the last messenger. But then if Jesus is coming back and we say he's a prophet, and then he's going to be on earth teaching the disbelievers, then wouldn't that make him the last messenger?
And you know what, Gabs? One thing I forgot to mention, one of the brothers in the comment, all right, section, just facts, shout out to that brother. He mentioned Imam Mahdi. We forgot about him. Before Jesus, supposedly there's going to be some Imam who's going to unite the Islamic Caliphate or whatever, and he's going to, unite the Muslims and do all of that. So that's another thing. If Muhammad's the last messenger, why is there some Imam Mahdi going to come and do his thing? You know what I mean? So I forgot to mention that, but shout out to the brother Just Facts for bringing that up. It's a good point.
Yeah, and he's already come.
Okay.
He's already, sorry to butt in, brothers. Evening, or Hotep, or Rahubat, or Alafia,
peace.
or Salam Alaikum, or Shalom.
Shalom.
Yeah. Yeah, to agree with that, yeah, they say the Mahdi is, and his army is going to defeat the Dajjal, the Antichrist. So, yeah, what the brother Dark was saying is correct. There's aspects to it that have happened already, because my contention with the Injil or the Book of Revelations is that we're living in the time of the Book of Revelations. So if they're talking about a 40-year period, then he might be here already. So,
we were going to get in. It's funny that you said that, because that was the other part I was going to get into.
Okay.
Has already come and gone, bro.
And before you touch on that, let me just quickly
read what I'm saying.
Comments. And Kispen says, Muhammad is dead. Jesus apparently isn't. So he might just win that one. However, I believe in none. Continue. And then again, Anonymous is saying, Callum, could you talk about the Kemetic God and our purpose of life according to Kemet, please? Okay.
Come on, bro. That's basics.
Let me see if we get any more comments going on in here.
Hey, Callum, read that comment. Someone said, why don't you get a Muslim scholar on the panel? I'm sure we would love one, right?
Love it.
We would love it.
Yeah.
Come on, they don't want to come on.
Love it. But they're few and far between.
Yeah, we're the Muslim scholars that bring them on. We're happy to conversate with them,
You know,
ask questions and whatnot.
tell them to join in, man. Unfortunately, we realize that a lot of these alleged Muslim scholars, they run from shows like Christian Princes. They run from shows like Gin and Tonic, and they run from, you know, various other shows.
Tell them, Callum, tell them. Talk that talk that talk.
They run from Talk with the Titans. So
And the wicked thing is, like, on these online platforms, it's so much better. Do you know why it's so much better? Because when you're just talking, you can talk the hell out of a person, yeah, and we won't get anywhere. But once you throw up, like with here, we can share screens, we can share sources, we can share books. The people can read it, source material. So if there's any discrepancies, like, you can just pull up your scriptures and be like, nope, here it is, look at it right there. But I think that's the problem. I think that's what they're scared of. I think they're scared of their facts or their citations actually being criticized. You know, we could be in the park and we could talk about it all day long, but nobody's bringing out no books.
Yeah,
nobody ain't bringing out no books. But on here, you're forced to, you know, provide me the dalil, akhi. Provide me the dalil. Provide me the evidence, akhi.
dalil, sah, dalil.
They're scared to come into the lion's den.
Exactly, man. Tell them, hey, sing, man.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. There was one thing I was going to mention as well. And guys, you correct me. Tell me what you guys think about this as well. How many of you? This is a question I asked. How many of you heard a person from the Muslim faith saying that Islam is the fastest growing religion? Do you know what I mean? Everybody's converting to Islam. Do you know what I mean? They've said it. We've got this. It's the fastest growing. Yeah.
It's the fastest dying in reality. You know, people are leaving like crazy.
Did you also know,
Yeah.
before you got into that, did you also know that cancer is the fastest growing disease?
That's true. That's a fact. That's a fact.
That's a fact. Yeah.
That's a fact. Diabetes is high.
But the
too,
reason why I said that.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the reason why I asked that is because look, let's just say if we do go by what they say, if we do go by what they're saying when they say Islam is the fastest growing religion, yeah. What was the reason for the Prophet Isa returning back to earth? What was growing?
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. And also, I believe there's a hadith. Maybe Callum has heard of this. Isn't there a hadith that says Islam started off small and it will return small or something to that effect?
No, but not even that. Because look, if the reason for the Prophet Isa coming, yeah, is because obviously the growth in disbelief. He said that the disbelief amongst the people was so high, it was so vast that he had to return. He had to come back and defeat this Antichrist. Yeah. So if Islam is the fastest growing religion and it's growing, yeah. What would be the need? Because remember, this is supposed to. Supposedly, this is supposed to happen because this is this is a prophecy. Yeah. Yeah, this is what's supposed to happen in the future. And if Islam is still growing, still loads of more people are joining every day, growing. What would be the need of the Prophet Isa coming back to defeat the Dajjal? If Islam at that point, Islam should be ruling the world at that point if it's growing so fast. Surely?
No, there's an echo.
So then,
this guy, Rich, you got to mute your mic, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
so
ahead,
does that mean that this Prophet Isa is coming to the people in the faith of Islam?
Yes. Yeah. In the form of Isa.
This is just
Yo, Rich, you got to
ask the question out.
Your mic's echoing.
One second. Yeah, Rich Kid, did you actually have something to say?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can barely hear you. Okay, we can hear you, but barely.
Maybe you have a TV in the background or something, Rich.
I don't know. He's having some difficulties, but please keep your mic muted until you're ready to actually say something, because it's causing a lot of noise. Go ahead, King. Continue. Gabz, are you talking?
Yeah. Sorry, I was laughing. Someone just put in the chat room, may Islam never rule the world. They have to make sure they put that, because listen, if Islam rules the world, then we will know who Jesus coming back for, or Isa. Who's he coming back for? If Islam rules the world, like we said, it's the fastest growing religion, yeah, and everybody's converting and blah blah blah, and everything's going fine and dandy, yeah. So like the Muslims always say and claim and say to us, and they do end up ruling the world. There's only one person that the Prophet Isa is coming for.
The Mohammedans.
Yeah, fam, that's it. That's just simple it, because he still has to come, supposedly, if he is still coming. This is just me just going through their text and seeing what it says and going by what they believe. But yeah.
Evening, guys. How are you guys keeping?
Yes, man, Rob. Rob.
Let me show you something here. You talked about the fastest growing religion. Have a look at this. Hopefully you can see this. Can you see it? Am I sharing the screen? So it is true that Islam is growing, but it's by birth rate. If you look at the projected change due to switching, so this is through conversion, deconversion. You look at the bottom there, the Christians projected to lose about 66 million devotees. And if you look at the very top, the unaffiliated, in other words, the non-believers, are projected to change to plus 61 million. Muslims will change by about 3.2 million. So this shows you the projected change due to conversions. So when Muslims tell you that they're the fastest growing religion and it's due to conversions, that's clearly wrong. It is true that they are the fastest growing religion, but that's purely by birth rate, because they have more children per family than other religions. So don't let them kid you into thinking that it's because people are converting to Islam. It is true, as you can see there, that they will have a cumulative increase, but it's nowhere near the top one. The unaffiliated, which I'm proud to be part of, is the fastest growing by conversion. So I just thought I'd throw that out there for you guys.
Yeah, that's decent.
Thank you.
That's
good
medicine right there still.
That's medicine. So you're saying the fastest growing religion is the unaffiliated by conversion, you know? Damn, son. That's atheism. I'm even going to throw in there, that's Kemeticism.
Yes, it's anybody that's not affiliated with those other religions there. I don't know if you call Kemeticism and other religions, but if not, then yes, you'd fall under the top one there.
Jeez, the unaffiliated. Oh man. Listen, to get a buff from me, you need to be affiliated. Jeez.
Well, even Rob's bringing the medicine.
You know?
Gabz, can I borrow that saying? You should copyright that saying. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, come on, Rob. You know we here, baby. We here. You know?
I see Rob's part of the other group called surgery, you know. The surgeons, you know. Damn.
Yeah, I like that.
Gabz, I saw your video with Darren Hamza, and you guys were talking about
yes. Please. And tell me what you thought of that.
You were doing well there. You were talking about the universe from nothing, and you asked him how that's possible. The thing that I noticed with Muslims is they can't conceptualize things. And so in their mind, the universe coming from nothing is very simple. God just said, kun vayakun, and the universe appeared. What you really got to ask them is in conjunction with his attributes. So if they claim that he's omnipotent or powerful, in other words, he's eternal and infinite, logically speaking, that means that before the universe and any of these pens and other nonsense they talk about, God was all there was, which is kind of what you said. And then you want to keep those attributes in sight, and then you're going to ask them, well, how did the universe come? Because you did kind of do it, but it seemed to me that you didn't stay on it long enough, because you did ask the question, well, how did the universe come? Because your concept of the universe is coherent. The Muslim version is, in my view, impossible, in the sense that God creating something from nothing, their version of nothing, which is the absence of anything, and that something is totally separate from God. And you asked the right question, but I think you could have pressed a bit harder, because basically what you want to and you did kind of ask, which is, where did that material come from the universe? If it wasn't from God and God was all there was, then where did that material come from? And now they start to bounce around and tap dance.
Sorry, I'm not even. I'm Rob. I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm telling you, I tried. If you watched that video, you saw there was a point where Hamza wouldn't let me speak. You saw that. I was trying to talk more, and he was like, "No, no, I'm not going to let you speak." He's like, "No, no, you answer this." Then he started talking and rambling on about random things, and then brought me to a whole nother junction.
Mm.
He took me from Clapham Junction all the way to Green Park Station. I don't understand how I got. And I was looking around thinking, how the heck did I get here? Why am I in Green Park Station? Do you see what I'm saying? He had to take me away because he couldn't answer.
No, you never allow them to happen though. You stick on your circle, you stick on the plot, and you pressure them. You know, you gotta put Muslims,
but you know what,
especially Muslim debaters, you gotta put them in the corner. Yeah.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what? And I think this is my what's that word? This is my kindness, because I don't have that thing in me where I don't like forcing myself over someone, because then this is what will happen. The moment I start raising my voice and trying to force myself, people are gonna go, look at that black Kemetic guy. Look, he's aggressive. Why is he forcing himself on this peaceful brother Hamza? Do you see what I'm saying? So then I just think, do you know what? Yeah, I'm not even gonna try and force myself, even though in my nature I don't like over talking someone while they're speaking and trying to get the point across. Sometimes I rather them speak and say nothing, so that it shows to the people that, hold on, this guy is actually skipping the question. Where's he going?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Why is he tap dancing? Why is he taking us somewhere else?
Yeah, Gabz, that is a good. In some sense, that is a good strategy. There's different strategies. Different strategies work for different people. But if you let them say something, they will oftentimes, reveal everything. You don't even need to do something necessarily. They will, like you say, not answer the question or whatever the case may be. But this is, remember, all we're doing when we're talking about this beginning of the universe thing, particularly from their point of view, is we're just using what they are giving us. They're claiming these certain attributes about God. They're claiming that God created something from nothing, absolute nothing, not the scientific nothing, because otherwise, obviously, God isn't necessary. So they can't use scientific nothing. So they have to go with absolute nothing. And then when you inquire about this, well, how's this possible? Where's this material come from? And where's this nothing? So here's the analogy. Let me give you this. See if this would help, and maybe you can try this. Say to them something like, make your own one up if you like. Something like this. Imagine that you have a fishbowl that is completely full of water, and it's sealed at the top. And inside the fishbowl is only water. There is nothing but water in this fishbowl. And this is magic water, and this magic water can create anything it wants. So suddenly, inside this fishbowl that's completely hermetically sealed with only water in there, a fish appears. And now, where did the material from this fish come from? If there's only water inside this bowl, how did the fish come into being?
It would have to be from the water.
There we go. And so you say to them, well, this is analogous to your God, because you're claiming that before the universe and the pen and all of the other nonsense, God was all there was. And so in order to create this universe, either two options. One, there was some other material somewhere else, which means that then that would contradict one of God's attributes if there's material that isn't God. Or God is all there was, and he created the universe from himself, or his essence, if you like, which is exactly like the bowl, because all that the fish could be is a reconstitution of the water molecules into a fish, because it's magic water. So try and get them to conceptualize something, because in their mind, they can't see it that way. They're just listening. They're just in their mind. What I'm surmising is looking at the words. They can't conceptualize it. And all we're doing is using what they are giving us. We're not adding anything to it. We're saying, how is this possible based on your claims? But if you give them the conceptual, some kind of analogy, you can make your own one up if you like. This will hopefully get them to think more about the concept that they are bringing to us, because they don't think about it. They just accept that this is the way it happened. And now we start to invest. Well, is this actually possible based on your claim, which is that God, if there is a God, he created everything and we are all part of him. No problem with that. I can't argue with that. If he exists, that is totally coherent. Their version, incoherent. It's just not, in my view, that's impossible for it to happen in the way that they say, given the attributes they claim God has. Your version, no problem with it.
But then this is what he did, though. If you carried on watching it, this is what he then did. He then took me to a place and said, no, actually, Allah is he's in a place. He said he's above his throne. This is where he took me. So then I was just like, what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, he's above his throne. He's not. Yeah, he's in a particular place. And then I said, so he is in a place then. But then before that, they were saying that he can't be in no place. So I was like, so what? Is there a specific place somewhere out in where he is, where he's just located? Yes.
Yes, you see, they equivocate as well between what's space and time in this universe, and let's call it God space and God time outside this universe, because at some stage before this universe, there was a God. And then at some stage, there was a God plus a universe. So logically speaking, there is some kind of God time before the universe, God, and then God plus universe. And so, yes, there is space, let's call it God time, space time outside of this universe. And like you say, they have to accept this as well. But then they want to equivocate between that and the time and space in this universe. And that's something to pull them up on, you know, and ask them, well, was there God only, and then there was universe? Yep. So would you agree that there is some kind of time, God time, let's call it, where there was a God and then there was a universe? Okay, great. Now we've got a God time. And was there God and then there was something called the universe, which is physical space, molecules, whatever you want to call it? Yeah, there is. Okay, so now you've got God and then you've got this thing. And so now you have just a godly version of space and time. Not a problem, you know, but they've got to accept that, because otherwise they go, oh, no, you can't talk about this because God is outside of space and time. No, God is outside of universal space and time. But there's nothing to suggest that God is outside of God's space and time. That doesn't make sense. So, but if we use the analogy of a water bowl or something else that's sealed, because what we want to get them to understand is if God, that was all there is nowhere else for material to come into existence from, quote, nothing, or from God, other than from himself. Totally no problem. Yeah. But if somebody can get around this, and I've listened to Christians attempt to try this, but I'm not going to go into that. It'll confuse Muslims even more, so let's not go there. But there's some advanced Christians that try and do it, but it's not worth going down that route, and it's a bit complicated, and it doesn't actually solve anything. They're just making a claim that they can't back up. Yeah, but it's good. I like your
unless they're going to say, unless they're going to say the only option that they do have is that unless they're going to say that God is nothing. That's the only way in my mind. And then, they can't say that. Unless, that's what I said. Unless they're gonna say God's nothing, I don't know how they're gonna get from that situation. It's true, because where did this element of nothing come from?
Correct.
Because nothing is something. You remember?
Yes, they want to claim.
Because if you take away, if there's something there, and you start taking away, you end up with what? You end up with nothing.
Yeah, there's an echo. There's an echo.
Yeah, it's a rich kid, I think it is. You've got to. They are, but for them, their version of nothing. Some of them claim their version of nothing is the absence of anything. Some people claim that their version of nothing is non-being. Non-being seems incoherent to me. I mean, they'd have to explain what that means. But you're right. If we think of nothing as being existing in some way, then it would take up space and time, wouldn't it, in some sense? What I think they're trying to get to is that there was God and he just blew and the universe came, and that they consider nothing. But then when you introduce a version of nothing, they don't like that. So and I had this conversation. I don't know if Mansur actually recorded it. I didn't get to record it, but Mansur did. And I asked Tariq, who's quite a smart Muslim down there. He doesn't come down very often. Unfortunately, Phil came down the week after him. I would love him and Phil to have had a conversation. But this guy Tariq, had this conversation with him as well around this whole nothing thing. And I asked him and Mansur, I said, why should I consider your version of nothing, which is the absence of anything? Why should I consider that anything other than a concept? When we have a scientific nothing, which we've tested in the lab called the Kashmir effect, and we can't see the virtual particles, but we can measure their effects. And that Kashmir effect is the absence of particles, or no thing, as Carla would say, no dash thing, nothing in there, no thing. And from that, you get these virtual particles popping into existence, and they push these plates together. And so we can see this. There's nothing in this box. They've completely taken it out. So we have what I would consider a scientific nothing. They don't like that, of course, because they go, no, that's something. I go, okay, fine. Tell me why I should accept your conceptual version of absolute nothing. Let's use that term. And the response was, because we can talk about it. And I'm like, really? That's the best you can do? So if we can talk about, an invisible unicorn or an invisible dragon, does that mean that they exist? No. So why should I accept you? It's other than all it is a philosophical term, because philosophers 1,000 years ago didn't know any better, and they thought that there was such a thing as absolute nothing. And we have no reason to think that there's an absolute nothing. There's nothing like that in the universe. So why should we accept that there was something like that before the universe? And it's the same thing when Ali Dawah does his whole complexity arguments and so forth. He actually, if you listen to it carefully, he refutes the nothing argument. I could explain that, but I don't want to hog the mic. But if Dawah does anything, then you can ask him this. And I tried to do that with him at one point, but it just went right over his head. He just didn't get it. And so this whole something from nothing business is very problematic for Muslims in particular.
Yeah. Where's Kalam, man? I know he's just chilling, getting a little snack and a little break. Clever.
Trust me, Donny, trust me. All right, let me just see what the rest of the panel is saying, because we've got some new members in, and I'm going to ask everybody to free up some space afterwards so we can get some other members in who would actually like to give their input. So Ezra, my brother, if you're available to talk, please talk right now. All you have to do is unmute your mic. Okay. My brother Ayan.
Hi, Kalam. How are you?
Peace, King. How you doing?
Nice, man. Nice. Always nice to meet you all on live, and I just come in.
All right. And then okay, let me go back to Ezra, see if you're, if you actually wanted to say something.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Yeah, I can hear you, King. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just listening to Gabz earlier, and he made some valid points. But I was just saying, them points there, like the way he's aiming it at religious people, and it feels like he's including the Bible in it, and like them questions there, they don't apply to the Bible, because according to the Bible, God, the Creator, the Most High, is everything. There is no nothing. So anything that is created from Him. There's no like in between. Like in some next mad realm and all that mad stuff. I heard him talking about hell as well. Like, so is hell a part of God? Like hell in the Bible it's on the earth. There is no fire under the ground with a demon man with pointy ears. Like, that's not biblical. Sorry, I'm trying to drive as well. You get me? But I'm just saying, like, according to the Bible now, everything is God. There's nothing. So, like, aim that at the Muslims. The Muslims now, for them, their Allah, He ain't nowhere. Like, we're not part of Him. He's not from us. We're not from Him. Like, that's what I mean. You can't involve the Bible or just all religions in that, because, like you say, most other religions believe that they are part of the creation, like Hindus, etc. Hermetica.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I just want to say to the brother, that's why. Sorry, brother, Ezra. That's why at the beginning, I did say, how you doing, bro? I did say, I wanted to understand, what our Christian brothers, Hebrew, Muslim, and any religion. I wanted to get everybody's take on this whole, God not being a part of His creation.
Yeah,
because obviously I already know this. I know from the Christian point of view that you see God in everything. So my next point or my next question would have been is, where did Islam now get this whole thing of the separation? Where did this whole new teaching of the separation come from? Because obviously in the Hindu religion, I think they believe that the Creator is a part, God is a part of His whole creation and everything.
Yeah, all them religions.
From the Christian teachings, they believe that. So then I'm trying to understand is, why is it Islam, or why is it Islam now? Where did Islam get this whole separation that God doesn't come down to His creation? He's separate from it. He doesn't care. Do you know what I mean? But he's separate. He doesn't come down. You know what I mean? He's separate from us. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to cut you. You know what that is, Gabz? That is just this Allah is a brand new God concept. It's like he's an ancient God. He's an ancient idol. But the Allah that they're trying to bring out now, it's like 1400 years old. So what it is now, they've learned from other religions like that and other like God concepts, and they've tried to just mix and match one, and then like come up with one that's like they thought was undebatable. This God outside the realm business, you know, if you know what I'm trying to say. What it is, it's just a mix and match of other people's philosophies. Yeah, like this. That's what I'm saying. I'm starting to believe now that Muhammad was just like he was just a philosopher. You get me? That's the conclusion I'm starting to get, because like when you read it, it's even a part of the Quran. There's a verse here that says that people keep on saying to him here that he's just he's just reciting like ancient tales and scriptures day and night, which is what I think is going on. You know what I mean? Like there's no basis to that. Like you said, every other religion now, yeah, has got the concept right. You know what I mean? Like obviously they don't all agree on other stuff, but the creation, yeah, they all understand. Even Sikhs, like they all understand that we're just a part of it. Apart from these Muslims now, they come along with this brand new concept. It's just weird. Like there's no answer for it. So what did he create you from then? Like what tools did he give you? I don't understand.
Again, I always say, you might please family. Again, I always say that this is just a mad misunderstanding from the Muslims part. I don't really think it's from the Islamic or the Quranic part. I think it's just from the Muslim part, because there's nowhere in that I've ever seen that God, Allah, ever creates from nothing. I think that is just something that Muslims have begun to make up, and because they've said it so many times, they've all started to actually believe it. You know, one monkey says something, and then you have the 50th monkey syndrome going on. Monkey see, monkey do. I don't see it in their scriptures. And then there's even another scripture as well. You know, they always like to say, oh yeah, Allah is above his throne. But then according to Surah 50 verse 16, and we have already created man and know what his soul whispers to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein. So one has to wonder, like, if Allah is so far, there is even, there's a transcendental Allah, and then there's also a what's the opposite of transcendental again? Immanent. There's also an immanent Allah as well, being so close to you that he's even closer to you than your jugular vein. But I don't know.
Bro, you know what? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Kalam, sorry to cut you there. Do you know what I just got from that? You see that scripture? Now, something came to my mind, because I know you brought that before. I actually understand now what it means by he's actually closer to you than your jugular vein. Because you remember, your vein is what? Your vein, yeah, is a piece of your flesh, right? Your jugular vein is a piece of your flesh. So, what would be closer to you than your vein? What's even more closer to you than your vein?
Your blood.
And you know what? I just come to the conclusion where it is. Nope. No, even that.
No.
Not even that. Because remember, what did Allah do to make?
I was gonna say, I was gonna use get a word in.
What did he do? How did it become alive?
He is sperm.
You see what I'm saying?
He is sperm.
So, huh? What was you gonna say? What was you say?
You said something. I think he used sperm in it, and then made a blood clot, and then fashioned a thing out of clay, and then blew his soul.
Not even that.
Okay.
Let's not even go there before we stop. Before we start saying that before we start saying that sperm is blood. Before we go there,
I ain't saying that. I ain't saying that.
Who remembers that one?
With the text. Yeah, I remember that one.
From Ahmed, but is sperm blood?
Yeah.
only from the Islamic side of things does sperm become blood.
I'm telling you.
But yeah, go ahead, Gabs. You're gonna say that it's his soul, right? The soul is the closest thing.
Yeah, it's the soul. True. So the soul would be the closest thing to you, exactly. And that soul came from where?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That soul. Exactly. So that's how I understand that scripture. When he's saying he's closer to you, yeah,
Yeah.
he is closer to you than even your vein.
That's
That's
right.
the soul, bro. Because that's how you. That's your life force. That's how you became alive.
Yeah, you got a piece of him
Where's the spirit located? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where's the soul? You see?
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's how I understood that. So sorry, bro. That was a little tangent.
All right. So you know what? I see. Hold on. Let me go into Rich Kid first. Rich Kid, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, can you hear me, Kalam?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes, peace to the family. I just wanted to say all this God talk. What is God and who is God? Which God are we talking about?
So far we've been talking about the Islamic God.
Allah.
Yeah.
Is Allah the same God as the God in the Torah?
No. Although they would like to claim so.
Okay, but Muslims have told me that the
No,
God
definitely
of the Torah,
not. Definitely not.
they're not the same God.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I would even say, me personally, I would even say the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament, and the God of the Quran are three different gods. This is my personal opinion.
But we
based on
can't
what I've
have
seen.
we can't have two gods in heaven.
Huh?
We can't have two gods in heaven. Either we have Jehovah in heaven or we have Allah in heaven. We can't have two.
Of course.
And if Muslims are saying that Allah is Jehovah, then Allah doesn't live out of his time and space, because Jehovah's come down many times. He spoke to Moses face to face. So if Allah is Jehovah, and I have documents where Muslims have put out to say that Allah is Jehovah, they can't say in one breath that he is Jehovah, and we know Jehovah comes down, intermingled with his creation. That's another story. Allah then cannot live outside of time, because we're talking about two different gods. I mean, we
Well,
can sit here.
yeah.
Sorry, go
I
on.
was gonna say the reason I think they say that is, you know, when they do da'wah, they want to find commonalities, you know, so they want to like show that their God is similar to the Judeo-Christian God. So once they work on the similarities, then the person feels comfortable, and they kind of can reel them in. You know what I mean? Because if a Muslim just comes in and says, "Oh, my God is different than your God. We have nothing in common,"
But
that's
didn't
not really a good
Hamza,
tactic. You know what I mean?
I was watching a video with Hamza, and he specifically told Sarah that him and that Jewish guy that Kalam has on sometimes, they worship the same God. That's what Muslims have said. Some say no, some say yeah. But if Hamza said that they worship the same God, I need to know which God we're speaking about. We could be speaking about Zeus. We don't know who we're talking about. We can't have two gods in heaven. So either Allah is Jehovah and Jehovah is Allah. If they're not, then we have two gods in heaven.
No, that's correct. They are one in the same. It's just language and in translation.
Can I come in?
Yeah. Come on, brother.
You see what happen? Sometimes we get confused when we say God. You know, we have to realize that as time goes by, people change word. You know what I mean? And once word change, meaning change. What we have to realize that we have to first define who is God, what is God. And the last time I explained that God is life. And each one of us there, we have life in us. In other words, we can use to define who is God. The Bible says that God is spirit. Every one of us that sit down there tonight, we all have a spirit in us. So in other words, you are God, I am God, but in different level. You see what I'm saying? Different level. This is how it goes. In your house, you have father, you have wife, you have children. They are all spirit. Each human being is spirit. Our bodies are just temples. And in those temples are spirit. That is why sometimes when you go to sleep, you can dream, you can see things, because your spirit is still can do many things while your body is resting. You see what I'm saying? So that's why the confusion comes when people say, oh, there's one God. There's not one God. There is one spirit that brings forth a lot of spirit in the world. Even animals have spirit in them. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes we can have good spirit, and sometimes we can have bad spirit. So when we mix up, saying, use the word God and just say we want to define there's one of it, that's where we get confusion. But every one of us, even Jesus said in John chapter 10, verse 34, I'll just read it fast. Jesus was speaking with the Pharisees in his time, and they had a problem with him. And they said, Jesus is saying, I and my Father are one. And then the Jews at that time, they get vexed with him, right? And then he said, Jesus answered them, saying, many good things I have shown unto you from my Father. Which of the good works do you want to stone me? So the Jews say, we are not stoning you for good work, but we are stoning you for blasphemy. And because that thou being a man makest thyself God. So they have a problem with that. So Jesus said unto them, it is not written in your law or in your books, I said ye are gods. So we've seen gods in plural. So when Jesus said that, we go back to Psalm 82, and he's saying where God gives people responsibility, and he's saying that you are gods. So that's why when some people hear that saying Jesus is acting like he's God, it's not a problem. And each person that stand up there tonight, sit down there tonight, we are all gods because of God. So when we say that we are all God, we have to change the word God. Take away this word. Is this word that making confusion? Because God have his name in different culture, in different things, but actually there's just one spirit that control everything. We are all spirits. The Bible said that when a person dies, the spirit go back where it come from. You understand? We are all spirits. So it's we that using word that making things confusing. But we are all spirit. The only thing that the Almighty give us a body that we can carry this spirit. But when this body can't take it no more, the spirit go back where it come from. So we are all spirit. True, just different level. That's it.
Yeah, just on the previous point that one of the brothers mentioned. Hey, brother Rich, can you mute your mic? I can't screen share for some reason, but Callum, if you don't mind, could you in the chat posted this hadith, if you don't mind, could you click it and screen share it? Because they say, how they say Allah is different than his creation or whatever, like the point that I think Gabz brought out a few minutes ago, and how you cannot create something from nothing. So if you could, brother, just read that for people on YouTube. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, what was that?
Is this it here?
Yeah.
Go on, what is it?
Yeah, so you see how it says, okay, this hadith is by Abu Huraira, right? And it says, when one of you fights with his brother, he should avoid his face, for Allah created Adam in his own image. So you know how the Muslims say there's nothing like Allah and we're separate from Allah, but here's an early Muslim source, right? Sahih Muslim, which Muslim was a student of Bukhari, and he's saying here clearly that don't hit the face of another human being because Allah created Adam in his own image. So this is a deadly dagger right here, you know what I mean? And then also,
put it on the screen, Kalam.
Yeah.
Put it on this. It's not on your screen. It's not on. Sorry to cut you. It's not on
problem,
the screen. Because all I can see is you talking. Because I want the people to be able to see it. There you go. There you go,
Yeah.
brother Dark. Go on.
Yeah, and also I posted another link just above that. If you can click it, it's the same thing, but it's another Muslim website. Just above the one you clicked, right? Sunnah.com. If you could click that, Gabz. I mean, Kalam, yeah. Yeah, so the people can see it, right? Same thing. See, you should avoid his face, for Allah created Adam in his image. You see that? So again, it's just like Kalam said earlier. A lot of things Muslims say, it's not what they actually is in their books. They say one thing, but their books say a totally different thing. And we can go to the early sources and you can see the contradictions of what Muslims say today in 2017 and what actually their scholars and their top imams and sheikhs actually believed in what's in the text. It's two different things, you know. We all let other brothers talk.
That's right. But you know what? I actually wanted to get onto some Kemetic stuff, you know, because I see, you know, y'all be waiting for some Kemet. You know, y'all be waiting for some Kemet. Let's see. Sorry, still in the chat. Hunger. Oh man, y'all funny. Let me read this out actually because it's funny. Isaac, not Ishmael, says Muhammad hung around Israelite and copied their heritage. Cultural appropriation much? Superimposing much? All right, cool. Hey, yo, Gabz, let's get into Kemet, man. Talk to me. I'm going to let you lead the way, man. Lead the wave.
Let's go, let's go. There's one brother, I think, who is it? I think it's unknown. He was asking a question. I kept seeing it popping up.
Anonymous. Let's see if he's still there. Anonymous. Yeah, here we go. He's there. He says, Kalam, can you talk the Kemetic God and the purpose of our life according to Kemet, please?
Okay. So you want to know, can you talk the Kemetic God and the purpose? So what do you mean? So you said talk the Kemetic God. What do you mean? Anonymous, what do you mean by talk the Kemetic God?
Let's do this. Yet again. See? Y'all want books right here. Here's some books, man. Here's some books. Go make purchases, man.
When you're ready, I have a question for the Kemetian.
Yes, please.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we're ready.
So I think we always say it from our Kemetic creed. Kemetic creed literally says, in terms of theology, what is the theology? Our theology says that God is one, he's the creator of all things, and all things continue to exist on him in a hierarchy of beings. That is the conceptualization of a Kemetic God. And if we was to go a little bit further on, which I think I've read so many times, you can go right here, page number 15. It says here, since the craftsman made the whole cosmos by reason speech, not by hand, you should conceive of him as present, as always existing, as having made all things, as the one and only, as having crafted by his own will the things that are. For this is his body, neither tangible nor visible, nor measurable, nor dimensional, nor like any body. It is not fire, nor water, nor air, nor spirit, yet all things come from it, because he is good. Then there is another passage in chapter 17 that goes on a little bit further, and it says here, the monad, because it is the beginning and root of all things, is in them all as root and beginning. Okay, I repeat, the monad, meaning the one, because it is the beginning and root of all things, is in them all as root and beginning. Without a beginning, there is nothing. And a beginning comes from nothing except itself, if it is the beginning of other things. Because it is a beginning, then the monad contains every number. Every number is contained by none and generates every number without being generated by any other number. But everything generated is imperfect and divisible. Subject to increase and decrease, none of this happens to what is perfect. And what can be increased takes its increase from the monad, but it is defeated by its own weaknesses, no longer the monad. So that's the conceptualization of the Egyptian deity or God. And really what we're talking about there is energy. Okay? Energy, all that there is, the all. Simple as and simple is. Did you want to say anything extra on that?
Nah, me personally, I was waiting to see, because then I think probably his next question is going to be, what's the purpose of energy? I think that's what he's going to say, because I think he was going to get to that. What's the purpose of energy or something like that?
Could I ask, does the energy have a will? Does it make decisions, or is it simply energy as we understand it?
Of course it does. Do you make decisions?
I'm gonna say there is two ways of viewing this. Okay, I'm gonna let Gabs speak on it his way, and I'll speak on it my way, because it depends on everybody's understanding. So for me personally, I say that energy has no will that I can particularly visibly see and know and understand. Although the Kemetic teachings, the Kemetic teachings does talk about, this energy or this source as having some form of a will. I have yet to demonstrate that energy has a will. I understand the philosophy behind it and the speculation behind it, but I have yet to actually see it demonstrated to me. That's my own personal understanding. But go ahead, Gabs.
Okay. Well, me personally, I would say yes. I would say the will. Um, I would say the will is it does have a will. Energy does have a will, depending on obviously on its own whichever state it's in. So, the will of the sun is to be a sun. The will of the moon is to be the moon. You see what I'm saying? The will of the animals is to do whatever they do. So each thing has its own will and understands it. Yeah. But now it's just when you come to us, obviously we have a will. We have a will. Do you know what I mean? But our will is our will is to try and understand all these other things. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why I would say that our will is a bit different from the rest, because we have the will where we can we're here just to understand all these things that are around us, like the will of understand the will of the sun. What's its purpose? What's the sun's purpose? You know what I mean? What's the plant's purpose? What's the purpose of water? What's the purpose of the grass? Do you know what I mean? And then once you understand all these things, you understand the energy.
Gabs, wouldn't you suggest that in order to have a will, you need to have consciousness?
To have a will, you need consciousness. Consciousness.
Because isn't a will something where you can make decisions? Because otherwise it's arbitrary or it's random. So will, as we normally would understand it, is to make a decision. So I'm going to now pick up a bottle. My will is to pick up a bottle. What is the will of a stone or a rock? And see, to me, it doesn't make sense. It sounds more like to have a will, you need to have consciousness.
Okay, so this is why then I think it depends on whose wording are we using on will. You see what I'm saying? Because that method of will which you've given us is obviously through somebody else's perspective on what will, or do you know what I mean, the will to do something, or the will to strive, you know what I mean, in the English and all this stuff like that. But me personally, I think each thing has its own and it knows its own role. You see what I'm saying? So you would say what's the purpose of what's the will of a stone or rock, yeah? But then I could say to you, a comet, which is, you could say, is kind of like a meteor or a rock. When that comes into our planet and does something and smashes into our existence, and then whatever information it's bringing on it, wouldn't you say that's changing? It has a will. Well, you know what I mean. Its will is to come in and it has its own effect, and it's changed the environment or done whatever it's done. So, like, for example, if they're talking about the dinosaurs that was on the planet, they say that a meteor or comet came and smashed into the planet and it wiped out all these so-called dinosaurs and whatnot. That was a will in itself. Do you know what I mean?
See. Now I've got to ask the question now, because what I've understood as will to be is the ability to make a decision. So let's just say, I'm getting some background noise. Let me just mute off everybody's mic quickly. So it's the ability to make a decision. So either yes or no, or binary, 1 and 0, basically. Will is to make a decision. And I'm just thinking to myself, can we demonstrate that energy can do one thing or another by itself without it being affected or acted upon something else? And I have yet to come to the understanding of that. So, for example, with the comet, can the comet now decide to go backwards instead of going forwards? Can the sun now decide, instead of appearing to rise in the east and set in the west, can it now appear to rise in the west and set in the east? Can we demonstrate that it has the ability to make a particular choice? Or is it always flowing along with a prescribed destination within inside of nature? Like, I have yet to see something like that. Just like humans, we have the decision factor. Even how can I say it, animals have a decision-making process going on, but I've yet to see energy have that decision-making process taking place. One could actually argue, though, there is the double slit experiment, where we can see that the energy now appears to choose to go, particles now choose to appear in the form of a wave, or choose to appear in the form of a particle. Is that a form, or is that a way of showing or demonstrating that energy does have a will? That's the question I'm going to have to put out there. And actually, I'm going to put it out there to Speaker's Corner. Rob.
Good question you asked there. Phil was down on Sunday, and somehow we got onto that topic. And in fact, because as you know, he's quite knowledgeable on, well, certainly on cosmology and somewhat on quantum mechanics. And he was saying that in fact, when the wave function collapses, it's due to being measured, not being observed, but being measured. So it doesn't matter whether it's being observed, but the moment it's measured, the wave function collapses, and it will do this consistently every time. So my understanding from that is no, it doesn't have a will, because if it's measured, it won't suddenly not collapse. It will collapse every single time it's measured, and so it doesn't have a will like we understand the word will. Because I could walk outside and choose, in theory. I don't believe free will exists in the libertarian sense, but in theory, I could choose to go left or right. And whether you shone a light on me, you looked at me, or you shouted at me, I could still make that choice. It's not the same with the collapsing of the waveform. So that double slit experiment works in a certain way, and every time it's measured, it collapses. So it's not as if it decides, okay, do you know what, I'm being measured, but I'm still not going to collapse. There's no consciousness there. It's just, let's call it, reacting to the measurement state. That's my understanding from what Phil was talking about.
Okay, can I ask you a question, Rob? So I would like to ask, you see your will, so the will of a human being, is our will energy?
No, I wouldn't, not in the sense that I would understand the word energy. To me, energy is like electricity. It's like something that's in motion. Either it's particles, or it's pushing particles, or it's something. I mean, we have to define what energy is. But will, I wouldn't consider energy. No, it's a byproduct of our consciousness, which resides, for as best we can understand, within the brain. If you damage the brain, you damage consciousness in a sense. And so those two are linked. How exactly they're linked is quite a difficult question. But a will, as we understand it, is related to a brain. If suddenly there were no brains anywhere in the universe, then I would suggest there's no will as we normally understand the word will. And so the sun is doing what the sun is doing based on the laws of physics. It's not going to, as Kalam basically said, it's not going to decide to start spinning the other way or change its orbit randomly. It's going to obey the laws of physics, and that's not going to change unless some other outside influence happens. It doesn't make a decision in the sense that we understand. So that's why I wouldn't use the word will for things that are not conscious, let's call it that.
Okay, so the brain now, would you say the brain does the brain contain energy?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's got synapses. You might be able to say that. So we'd have to ask a neuroscientist on that. But I think that would be possibly a bit of a stretch. I mean, you might, if you break it down to its constituent components, maybe you could say that. But then you could say that about everything. And so I'd be cautious about reducing it down to its constituent components just to get the word energy in there, because then you would have to say that everything is energy, which is fine. But then, like I say, when we use the word will, normally in the English language, we're talking about something that's conscious and can actually make a decision seemingly without outside influences. Now, I don't believe that's actually what's happening, but for human beings and animals and so forth, they seem to be able to make a choice without being forced to, for want of a better word.
The reason why I asked that, because I would say it's the energy that allows the will to even operate. I think they go hand in hand, because look, we know, from our brain, we're dealing with our brain, we know that our movement and our stuff that goes on in our body is through the nerves. Now, in the nerves, what's making the nerves operate? What do they say the nerves is when you look at when they're dealing with science in the brain?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that, so I wouldn't know. I mean, like I say, if you break it down to its smallest components, you could make the argument that there's particles and there's energy
Yeah.
involved. But then when you do that, then you have to say that everything in the universe has got that. But that's not the same as a will. So I would agree that everything that's in the universe that we can observe is made up of the same basic components, which is quarks or protons, neutrons, etc. And there's energy involved because those are bound together with potentially energy. But again, we'd have to ask somebody who's a real expert on that. But again, we just need to go back to the word will. I think you are using it too broadly, and it should be referred to with conscious entities rather than a rock or the sun or the moon or whatever, because then I think you're using the word will differently than anybody that I'm aware of would actually understand that term.
Okay, real quickly. I'm going to actually ask a question as well, because I definitely know with inside of the Kemetic, let me just keep true to the Kemetic teachings and scriptures and how they actually talk. And I know they talk very poetically about certain things, and what they do is actually anthropomorphize, objects, or they personify certain human attributes to objects. So, for example, the sun, it speaks about it having a will, and it gives life to everything that is moving and so forth, and it gives knowledge to everybody and so forth and so forth. And it speaks of the sun as being a very conscious creature or conscious being itself. And I want to know, is that the way that we as Africans speak very poetically and actually giving these things human characteristics because we're speaking on multiple levels? Or do these things actually have a will? Do they actually make other things live as it's trying to portray? Or is it just poetical speech? So I wanted to know, Gabz, in your conceptualization of energy having a will, did you get that from the Kemetic scriptures, or did you get that based upon your own understanding and speculation?
I'd say based on both Kemetic and my own, because it's true. Because and it's a good thing that you mentioned the sun, because it's true. Like the sun, we can see that we're getting information that the sun is giving to us. You know what I mean? Information that the sun is giving to all things in nature. Like we perceive and see things because of the sun. If the sun wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to perceive any of the things that we have. If the sun wasn't there, we basically wouldn't be alive. Do you see what I'm saying? So that sun must be giving some sort of information, and it's not just giving information to us, it's giving information to everything in its system. Do you understand what I'm saying? So from my perspective, I'm thinking it must have a will, because do you know what I mean? The grass is growing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? The human beings are walking, they're talking, they're seeing each other. Do you know what I mean? Things are interacting. The birds are chirping. They seem to react to when the sun rises. You see things in nature act and do certain things when the sun is about. And when the sun sets, you see that things in nature acts a certain way.
Gabz,
So yeah.
the sun, where it come from?
Where did what?
The sun, how is that? Where it come from?
Where did the sun come from? I don't know.
It started from a gas of hydrogen and helium coming together to cause fusion, and that's how it came about.
Okay.
Can I say something, Kalam? Can I say something, Kalam?
Go ahead, King.
Just to add to what Gabz was saying, if you read Plato's Cave, you could see when the guy ascended, for anyone who knows about Plato's Cave, he couldn't look directly at the sun. He had to wait, he had to look into the water, and then when he actually visualized the sun for the first time, I think Plato went on to say he understood that the sun was the governor of all. So we understand the concept. As for the sun having a will, in our perception, we only see things on a human level, which we can do. But in the mysteries, these things are taught to you that everything that you see is alive. Ice when it smells is water. Water when it's in the pot and it's on heat, it turns to gases. So the gases is a part of everything is everything. You can't take one from the other. So that's my 2 cents.
Definitely. When we go into the mystery teachings, we do understand that everything is alive, everything is anime, everything has a spirit, everything actually does have consciousness. But in terms of how we talk on a modern day-to-day level, in terms of scientific level of actually speaking, I think we can't actually demonstrate those types of claims and prove it. But in terms of a spiritual level, because obviously, for example, with inside of the Kemetic understanding, when we're talking about Ra being the sun, we're actually speaking on a higher level of not just Ra being the sun, but Ra, the creative and active force within inside of nature, which is beyond and above the sensible realm. We're actually talking about the intelligible realm of Ra. And that there actually has a will and so forth and so forth and so forth. But when it actually manifests as its bar or in the sensible realm, it's very hard to actually prove that that actually has some type of will that makes decisions and chooses certain things. Because definitely within inside of the Kemetic school of understanding and thought, we utilize certain principles on a very multifaceted level. How can I actually hope to explain that? So in the Kemetic understanding, we say that God expresses itself in three different forms, or nature expresses itself in three different forms. In the form of Amun, which is mythology or names, or just mythology, should I say. Then it has, the second manifestation or expression which is Ra, which is in terms of the celestial or the sun, or the celestial realm in general. And then it's the third form it manifests is within the form of Ptah, which is to do with the body realm or to do with our psychology. So a lot of the times is that when we're speaking about God or these principles within nature, we are talking about things that we're actually attributing. We know it's mythology. We know its occurrence within inside of the celestial realm. So, for example, we know the mythology of Ra, and then we know its manifestation as the sun, and then we also know its manifestation within inside of the physical human body as consciousness, or its ability to be able to create or activate certain things within inside of our realms of existence. So, but we're speaking about those things on three different levels, and then when we try to bring that into modern day speech, it doesn't correspond, because we can't say now that the sun actually has the ability to speak, or the ability to think, or the ability to do something. I personally cannot demonstrate that claim and see how it can do that. But if I'm talking about the Ra, or the sun principle within inside of humanity, and we know that the Ra and the inside of humanity represents consciousness, according to Theophilo Benger's African philosophy, we know that, and we know that we are the incarnation of Ra, which is the sun, and we have the ability to think, we have the ability to speak, and so forth and so forth. So really and truly, I think that's what it's talking about in terms of certain things such as energy has consciousness. We know that the hermetica talks about all is mental, all is mind, and the universe is mental. To me, that is actually describing the Ptah principle, or the human psychology principle of the divine principles within inside of humanity, rather than the actual sun having the ability, or any other thing like the wind actually having the ability to think and to make conscious decisions. I just can't, me personally, I just can't say it, and if I can't demonstrate it, I can't say it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm very wary to even mention those types of things there.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Gabz.
I was going to ask a question, yeah. This is just a little question, son. I was just thinking about while you're just talking, actually. So even if we think about it like this, who chose? So the different races of human beings, all human beings, who chose the different races? Who chose that? Who would you say chose for there to be a black person? Who chose for there to be a European? Who chose for there to be a Chinese? Who chose these things? Because we know that obviously, if you have, let's take for instance, if you have a black person and you have a white person, and you have the sun, yeah, who's doing the choosing on the effects that happen to those two things, those two individuals?
See, in terms of the African psychology, we would say that obviously it's nature that's making those choices. But if we step away from, the African philosophy and the way of thinking, and we actually we will actually listen to that question in a logical sense without utilizing an African mind and start utilizing a Western scientific mind, we would say that there is no choice. It's just an aggregate of different complexities coming together to produce various different results. and there isn't no conscious choice by an entity. To say choice means that there's consciousness, and it means that there's an entity, a being that's making those decisions. And that's only from an African philosophy where that makes sense. But from a Western scientific perspective, where there is no spirituality infused in the way of thinking, I don't say that there wouldn't be a choice. There is just loads of aggregate, coming together, or I don't know, how do I put it? I said it perfectly the right time around.
Callum, can I come in? Can I come in here?
Go ahead, answer.
I think that I've only been listening for about 15 minutes, but this is fantastic conversation here. I'm loving it. I think I've got a good point on this. I think the main thing here is that what we have to look at is the picture of human experience about these topics. Yeah. So thousands of years ago, human beings looked around the world and they saw the physical aspects of nature, and it affected them. Now, they didn't know about the quantum reality, the four basic forces in the world, the laws of motion, the laws of thermodynamics. They didn't know about these things. So they came up with agency and other dimensions to explain these things, which is all fair and well. Now, as a species, I really do think we need to start growing out of this thing. And I think, Callum, that you're probably 7 steps out of 10 steps on the ladder. I think you're 7 steps there to understanding this. I really do, because some of the things you say are just so perfectly precise about it. Now, the way I look at it is from a naturalistic perspective is, we've moved on with the scientific method and further, and we've physically operates. For example, the 4 basic forces in the world: the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, electromagnetism, and gravity. Set of forces we have derived every single thing we know and see and can experience in the world. So the basic understanding that we have now of the world is that the ultimate reality is physics. Yes, the laws of physics, matter, energy, and the inherent laws of physics. Now, when we talk about free will, you can immediately bring it in a reductionist way all the way back down to everything is atoms, everything is energy, therefore it must have free will. No, that's not how it works. The ultimate reality of physics is the basis. From that, you got the reality of chemistry, which is built upon the basic physical reality. And then from chemistry, we eventually got biology on this planet, which is built again on top of chemistry. Now, with biology, eventually we got a brain that was complex enough to handle consciousness. And then we had conscious creatures. Then conscious creatures became rational, some of them. And now we have rational conscious creatures that are able to comprehend morality and work out the physical laws of the universe. And we can't then say that because ultimately our conscious and our rationality does boil down to our physical brain and therefore physical energy on the most base level, we can't then therefore say, so that also means that the base level of atoms and quantum reality also is consciousness. I think that's still holding on to the ancient ways of looking at the world before we had such precise and explanatory explanations. I mean, precise and accurate explanations, sorry.
Kalam?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, I would like you to see if you can explain to me about immorality laws in the Kemet teaching. Immorality laws, and then about evil and good. What can you say about those 2 subjects? Evil and good and immorality laws. I mean, how can our community can benefit from those things? How can we understand that?
Okay. Yeah, that's a massive topic. Sorry for jumping so abruptly, but yeah, that is a massive topic right there. That actually ties into the 6. If you ever check out our Kemetic Creed, for those of you who haven't checked out the Kemetic Creed, please check out the Kemetic Creed. That literally ties into the 6 6 building blocks, so to speak, inside of the Kemetic Creed, which is to do with our ethics. Okay, it's to do with our ethics, and we talk about our ethics is what actually guides us morally. And then we also have an outward appearance of our ethics, which is known as the 42 negative confessions or the 42 admonitions of Ma'at, and it's also known by the 42 declarations of innocence according to Ma'at. But the very first principle, before we actually go into having a codified form of ethics or an outward form of ethics, we actually must know what it is built upon. And it's built upon the principle of Ma'at. And Ma'at literally means truth, justice, reciprocity, balancement. Help me out, somebody. Help me out. Help me out. Where's everybody there that knows the whole
Truth,
balance?
reciprocity, and justice.
There you go. And all of that. So it's
Balance.
based. There you go. Truth, science, all of that is based upon that principle itself. It's a there's actually a word for it. It's a polysemic term, meaning it has various different meanings within its one within inside of that one word. It has a various field. Within inside of that, we actually go through it in a very systematic way to find out the substratum or the subfields of meanings or the subtopics of meanings. So for example, if we need to get into justice, we need to find out what is the study of justice. We need to find out, let me just mute everybody's mic because it's just getting on me. So we need to find out the subfield of justice. We need to find out the subfield of truth, which will be logic, etc., etc., etc. Based upon that, we get into what we know as virtues. What are the virtues? What makes a human being virtuous? And what is our guiding principles? And then we actually start to philosophize and now pen down things that makes us moral to, number one, each other. Number two, to nature. Number three, to what we perceive as a divinity. Now, to go into all of that now, to talk about our moral ethics and what we stand upon and what is good and what is evil, it's a long thing, but it is practically written in, give me 1 second, this book right here. Can you see it? It's called Ma'at, the Moral Ideal in Ancient Egypt. And this is written by Maulana Karenga. And in there, it talks about, good and evil. It talks about, you have to give me a second. It talks about the four, the four things that Ra created. And Ra created, things, Ra or the sun or the God or the creator or the divinity created everybody equally, and it created us with the ability to have choices and to make either be virtuous in our choices or be ignorant in our choices. If we are virtuous in our choices and truthful in our choices, meaning as long as we have knowledge, the more knowledge we have, how can I put it? If you know better, you will do better. Okay, so if you know better, you will do better. If you're in a state of ignorance, you will do negative things or ignorant things which will cause harm, hurt, and evil. And it's a very massive topic. Like literally, this book is roughly 500 pages long. And to try to sum this up like real quickly is going to be a difficulty for me to do. And unfortunately, I would love to pull out certain items within this book to answer your question and give you a source material to answer your question. But where you put me on the spot right now, unfortunately, I can't give you something straight away unless somebody else is talking and I can just pull up a few passages for you to kind of read. So let me ask you once more. What is your question again? What is your specific question? I'm going to pull it up in the background whilst everybody else is talking, and then I can come back to you and give you your precise answers.
Okay. Because I respect everybody in what they stand for, and in everything we can learn something from it, because as long as we're on the earth, we should be able to benefit in everything that is good. And if you talk about Kemet and you stand for what you believe or what you know, it should be it should be a blessing to others. Okay, so if I'm asking questions, not to put you down or put you to the spot, just to, since you say we're going to talk about Kemet, I just want to take this advantage to talk about immorality, because now when we look all around us, we see that immorality is overtaking the world, and there's consequences. So I just was curious to know what the Kemet is bringing to the world, because and then when we look around us, we see how people can be so evil toward one another, for no reason. So what the Kemet have to help cure all those problems, because if the world is continuing as it going, it's like one day we're all going to crash around against a wall. You agree with me or not? So we should have solution to our problem around. So my main question is about immorality and evil and good. How can we overcome those things?
All right. So let me just quickly do this real quickly.
So, Callum, while you're looking that up, maybe I can ask a question that's related. That's hopefully a simple question to answer. Hopefully, on Kemet, what would you guys say as Kemets is the number one thing that everybody else should pay attention to in Kemet? In other words, what's the big positive thing that Kemet brings over, for example, secularism, Islam, Christianity, or anything else? What is the one thing that you would say, do you know what, the Kemet system is superior in this or that?
Okay, so this is going to tie in nicely. So from the Kemetic philosophy and understanding, in the coffin text. So there's the coffin text, page 462 to 464, or coffin text number 7. It says here, Ra, this is Ra speaking, and he says to mankind, I did 4 good deeds within the portals of the horizon. I made the 4 winds so that every man might breathe therein from in his time. This is the first deed. I'm going to skip right now to the 3rd deed. He says here, I made every man like his fellow. I did not command that they do evil. It was their hearts that violated what I had said. That is the 3rd deed. So really and truly here, mankind has been created equal. Every human is being created evil. So there is no, how can I put it, hierarchy with humans, so to speak. Whether you're black, white, Asian, Chinese, Arab, whatever the case is, everybody is created equal. If you're a man or woman, you are all equal. Okay. He says here, I did not command them to do evil. The very first command within inside of the Egyptian type of teaching is ma'at, okay, which is literally truth, justice, reciprocity, balancement, etc., etc., etc. That is the very first command. But of course, humans have the ability of will. Okay, they can make their own decisions. They can choose either to follow, the baseness of themselves, their base desires, their lust, and so forth, or they can choose to choose the higher pursuits, which is to do with knowledge. So humanity actually brought about evil into the world by actually choosing to do evil. And they violated what was actually said in the beginning. So again, my brother said, what is the one thing that they Kemet offers that the rest of humanity doesn't offer? And I don't think that Kemet is anyhow different or superior than any other system in the world, unless, and the only way we can actually decide whether it is superior or not is by its results. So what is it that it teaches? What is the fundamental principle within inside of Kemet? And the fundamental principle within inside of Kemet is the concept of ma'at, or ma'ah to be precise. The first concept is ma'ah, which is science, okay, which is gnosis. We spoke about this before. It's gnosis, which is the very first concept within inside of Kemet, or within inside of the Kemetic creed, which is knowledge of self, knowledge of the universe, and then knowledge of the gods or God. So that's the fundamental thing. So I would say to you, it is gnosis, it is science, it is knowledge, and it is truth, justice, balancements, reciprocity, and all sorts. The whole moral ideal of actually knowing the truth and acting by way of the truth.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'at. There you go.
So evil only exists in the Ma'atian philosophy or the Kemetic philosophy once there is ignorance. Okay, once there is ignorance. And that's why I think the biggest isfet for most of us is beliefs, it's religion, or it's belief, not even religion, so to speak, but it's belief systems. Once there is belief systems, it's not operating on truth, it's operating on fallacies. Generally, it's usually fallacious, and fallacious thinking produces fallacious results, and it usually produces a lot more harm than good. But once you have a truthful, logical way of thinking, hopefully the more knowledge you accumulate, the more you do good by it. By actually knowing more, you tend to act in line with knowledge and in truth and in justice and in righteousness.
Will evil overcome?
Sorry?
Will evil be overcome?
Evil for us in terms of a Kemetic philosophy is to do with ignorance, which is lack of knowledge. So, in the Bible, it speaks about, our people are oppressed because of lack of knowledge. Within inside of the Kemetic philosophy, evil is always overcome by more knowledge. And we have the mythology where, you have the evil, the chaotic forces of Apep, A pep is usually signified as evil or ignorance, or people doing more harm than good. And usually at our noonday prayer, we have something where a pep is literally strike down with a spear, which represents literally, the spear represents the light or rays of the sun, or light or the rays of God itself. So as long as we have knowledge, okay, we're able to strike down and defeat any type of evil, oppressive forces.
So, but I mean, one day evil will be done away with. I mean, one day evil will be done away with, or that will continue always like that.
No, evil or isfet will always exist. This is the only way you can have balance. In order for you to have the truth, you must have fallacy. In order for you to have light, you must have darkness.
I mean, it's not like the other beliefs where like one day we'll be in paradise and all will be over, and then there will be only good.
Nah. But listen, that would even make no sense, because even in the beginning of their books, in that heavenly place, there was war, innit?
No. I mean, when I look in the Bible, it talk about that in the beginning, God put the man and his wife, and all was well. After evil,
no. But not even that. I'm saying prior to that, though, there was war in heaven. Prior to the man, wasn't it? In heaven, there was war.
I don't know if there was war. Maybe after, no?
Nah, the war in heaven. The reason why Satan came down and got cast down was because of the war in heaven.
But I mean, that's in Revelation. I mean, the last part, I think there was war in heaven, but I mean, that's after Adam was created.
The war in heaven was after Adam was created?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't
Do you check it?
Quite possibly.
I don't think so.
Quite possibly.
Okay.
There's always different interpretations.
Okay, all right.
But yes, for us, from the Kemetic understanding, as long as that there is constructive forces, there's always going to be destructive forces. As long as that there is life, there is always going to be death. One always has to follow the other.
Okay.
Can I ask you guys, do you have some kind of a moral system that, because you talked about good and evil, have you got some kind of a moral system that you can make a distinction between good and evil? And if so, a brief overview of what that might be. How do you decide what is good and what is evil, so to speak?
Can I answer that, Kalam?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was listening to the conversation. Good really depends on the person. Good and evil is not really a concept that we use. I mean, I think that's a Western concept when they say good and evil. We can't define what good is. We can't define what evil is. We can't define what justice is. We just use it as common people say, oh, he's a good person, but he may be good in appearance. To somebody else, he might not be good. So in order to answer that from an Egyptian or a Kemetic perspective, we can't really just say this is evil and this is good. As Kalam said, evil is ignorance. To know the good is knowledge. So those kind of concepts, we don't, it's not really an African thought. It's more, you get that from Bible, God is good and evil came in through the garden. These are mythologies that they're meant to teach us something different. They're not meant to teach us evil and good, as you say. We don't have that as African philosophy.
Okay, but if somebody performs some kind of an act, let's say they take somebody's life, would you say that the taking of a life is always evil? Or if it's not always evil, when is it good and how do you make that distinction?
Okay, so again, let's for now utilize the term good and evil. We'll have to again go back to the rationale, the reasoning. Why did you take that person's life?
Okay, so let's say somebody took a life because the person was sick and they were suffering, and they said, "Oh, I don't want to live anymore. I'm suffering." Would you consider that a moral act to take their life if they asked for it, or would you consider, as some countries do, that euthanasia, the taking of a life, is immoral and is not permitted? As an example.
Okay, so the act of the act of causing destruction or harm, obviously within inside of the Kemetic understanding, is not something that should be done. There first has to go through a process of healing. I know definitely within the Kemetic thought there is. So for example, if you're going through that way of thinking where they are in so much pain, is there something that we can use to relieve that pain? So now we'll have to administer medicine to relieve that pain. So then now you're going to say to me, though, Callum, but the medicine doesn't work, right?
Correct.
The medicine doesn't work. So we know there's a lot of religious folks out there, or a lot of people out there, that the medicine just isn't working. They don't even understand it. And they're so unaware that they're numb to the pain. They don't even realize that they're in pain and they're causing so much harm. So then, again, that has to be something which has to be rationalized definitely from a Kemetic grounding. Usually that has to be done with inside of a council of argumentations where the pros and cons would then need to be weighed out, and whatever the decision from there is made. So it could possibly be that, nope, the person has to remain how he is, or the person can receive something to take them into the next world. But that has to be a debate or argumentation that has to take place and weigh up the moral system of Kemet versus what's taking place right now in the here and now.
Kalam. Now, let me tell you, according to my understanding, everybody's Kemet, no?
Possibly.
Yep.
Why you say possibly?
Because Kemet has 3 different meanings. So
because why say so? Because according to what you explained, Ra that control everything. I mean, when did it start? It start from the beginning, or it's a certain time they start with Kemet? When Kemet did start?
When did Kemet start, or when did Ra start? Which one?
I mean, the system of Kemet, the belief of Kemet, the doctrine of Kemet. When did it start? From the beginning of time, or?
Okay, one could argue and say it's from the beginning of time, but then if one is wanting to enter into the realm of actual, academia and science and archaeology and so forth, we have evidence of remains of people within inside of the Kemetic Valley, Nile Valley, around 33,000 years ago, and then we can see the evolution of the thought pattern. Definitely from west of the Sahara, up from Nubia and so forth. And it's always been a, how can I put it? The Kemetic civilization has never just been like, bang, just there. It's always been a process of gathering more knowledge and more, gathering more knowledge and improving upon what they've known in the past. And then when we come to the highest point of actually articulating it took place roughly around 5,500 years ago, where they then start to actually pen these things down on tablets, on pyramids, on temples, and so forth, where we can actually physically see the Kemetic thought. Prior to that, it's always existed in the people within inside of their cultures and so forth, but in terms of its actual appearance, where we can now look back at it, roughly around 5,500 years ago.
So the Kemet is a certain people, not everybody.
Kemet the Kemetic people, the Kemetic Empire is made up of a lot of groups of people within inside of Africa itself, Africa proper itself, West Africa, Central Africa, Nile Valley, and then also over into the Asiatic lands of Arabia as well. And then depending on what time period as well, we're talking about, there's the Europeans that came in as well. So it's made up of quite a large group of individuals, depending on what time frame we're actually speaking of. The early pre-dynastic period is primarily African people, but later on it did evolve, and there was a lot of mixing.
Because why saying so? Because I hear people say that all people come from one people, d'accord? And I'm all the way in France, huh? So if you hear me say some French words, sorry. They say that all people came from one first like a first man or a first woman, and then that's where all people come. So if Kemet was I'll say that now. If Kemet is the thing of the world, belong of the world, I mean everybody's Kemet then. Just as some don't, some reject it, and some.
Sorry. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So from the Kemetic understanding, its Kemetic deity created every single human being, and they're called the Remech, or the beings that were proceeded from the creator itself. And every single human being has the principles or the attributes of the creator within inside of them. and so forth and so forth. So in that respect, yes. But you know, does everybody identify as being Kemetic or being African or having the African philosophy? I would say no. But I hear what you're saying, and I hear it in principle.
Okay, Kalam, thanks very much.
No doubt. Let me go back to Rob real quickly, because I know I think Rob wanted to continue. And then afterwards, I'm going to open up to Kefli.
Yeah. I wasn't sort of clear, so maybe you can clarify again. Like, how do you decide whether something is good or bad? I don't know what other terms you want to use, but how do you decide something like that? I mean, I've got a system. Theistic people will claim a system as well. I'm just not clear on how you make that distinction between, if you say something is ignorant or knowledge, again, how do we know whether, how do you marry that with what's good or bad? I'm not clear on how you bring those together to have a system that you could say, hey, Kemet, here's what Kemet would say about a situation and why it's good or bad.
So basically, there is the fundamental principles that govern Kemet, so to speak, which is the principles of Ma'at, which again is truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, balancement, abundance, life. Have I missed anything else out? There's a few.
Give me an example, because like justice, you know, for example, somebody might say, well, justice for a thief is cutting his hand off. Would you agree that that's a just act, or would you say no, that's not a just act? And how would you make that decision?
No, that wouldn't be a just act. To take property away from, so a thief as potentially or actually taking away property away from another person. Now, to take away their actual hand doesn't scream to me to be justice. The right or the just thing to do would then be for them to pay you back compensation, or you to take away whatever the value that they've taken away from you. That would be true justice in terms of balancement. Whatever that person has taken away from one side of the equation, they replace it on the other side of the equation. That would be justice.
Okay, so it sounds like it's more subjective for you. It's kind of like what you feel in your gut would be a good, just outcome. And obviously, you know, some situations are quite tricky. So I'm wondering if it is just your subjective sort of thought, then it wouldn't necessarily be based on Kemet. It would be you, Kalam, going, okay, in my mind, here's what I think would be justice. Now, Gabz might go, hang on a moment, no, I think this would be more just. But do you both have something where you can go, based on this yardstick, this is what I would say is just, or would it be more your subjective view?
So again, it's based upon, it should every how can I put it, Kemetic person, as you said, is autonomous, so to speak. So in saying that means that this is the yardstick, Ma'at, truth, justice, reciprocity, balancement, and so forth and so forth and so forth. That is the yardstick, so to speak. Now, we have to put up a case. So there's a case. There's a case being brought forward to us, okay? You know what? Such and such, Rob has stolen 20 pounds from Gabz. Okay. Now, let's actually weigh up the odds now. So, you know, Rob stolen 20 pounds from Gabz. What would be the just thing to do? What would be the truthful thing to do? What would be the righteous thing to do? What would be the balanced thing to do? What would be the reciprocity thing to do, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And I think everybody will have to come together, because this is a case that's being judged now, and we'll have to come together and we'll have to argue and debate the case as to what should be the next result. And that's the way I kind of comprehended it from what I've seen of Ma'at. It's always having to weigh things on the scales of balancement, weighing things on the scale of justice, truth, justice, and reciprocity. And that takes place. There's a debate that's to take place, and then there is a final verdict of what has to take place after that. One could say that it's subjective, and it has to be subjective because it has to be very fluid. Because if you look at the feather of Ma'at, it's usually very stern. The feather itself is very stern in the middle, but the feathers itself, or the, you know, whatever it is, the feather, yeah, the feathery bits, is very fluid. It's very movable. So depending upon what it is or what environment we're in, we'll have to judge it based upon those fundamental principles, which is always at the middle, but the environment will now depict or change what the potential outcome could be. Gabs, if I'm not explaining it, you know, to the fullest, I would love for you to
jump in.
Yeah,
and,
I was gonna
and do
come
your
in.
best. Go ahead, King.
I was gonna come in. I was gonna say, sorry, Nan Ifa, I'll go and then yeah, you can come in. Yeah, to basically piggyback on what Kalam was just saying there about judging, and you can see evidence of that because if you even look at some of the tribes that you see in Africa, you see that a majority of them they do come together. I know the brother Nan Ifa, us being from Nigeria, there is such a thing called the community. They come together when a crime has been taken place. The community come together and they are squabbling. You see them battling and debating what should be done to this criminal, what should we do, da 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 da. And then obviously the verdict is then had. And obviously that's the same thing with Ma'at, the whole judging scene. And it's the same thing that you see today in the Western world where, you know, a crime has been done and you have the court system where, you know, you come before the judge and then you have the juries and you have the prosecutor and the other lawyer trying to go through the case and debate what should be done, blah blah blah. And then once they found out the verdict, then bang, this is what we think is a just punishment. The judge would then say, well, we think he deserves this amount of time, or we think he deserves death, the death penalty, or we think he deserves just a couple months of suspended sentence or community service. So it's the same type of thing. And that's why I think that's where the whole judging system, which I've mentioned before in a video, is based upon the whole principles of Ma'at. You see the weight and the scales and stuff in the court systems. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's just based upon people coming together, using Ma'at to then judge the crime and make a decision on what they think is the best action to take. Really, I think that's the best I can say. Nan Ifa.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. To also jump onto what both my brothers have said is that Rob is to understand that yes, we always had a judicial system as well as Kemet is built on the mystery systems of the whole continent, basically. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like all condensed.
No, I don't know what that means. The mysteries of the whole continent. What does that mean?
Well, basically, I mean, each tribe or each, I suppose, location or philosophy coming from the village. Do you get what I'm saying? Everything has a hierarchy structure. Do you get what I'm saying? So you have the king, you have the president, you have the elders of the village. So there's always been a hierarchy system, and that system continued into Kemet. Do you get what I'm saying? So all that information is combined in Kemet, where they can sit down and philosophize and organize structure. Do you get what I'm saying?
So do you think that the Western legal system is superior to any other on earth, or do you think that the Kemet system is better? Because it sounds like
no. I think it just as you know, thing. If we look at civilizations, they would say that Kemet is the oldest civilization that they know of, even though that we know that's not necessarily true. But the first organized, or you say civilized nation. So they had a judicial system, they had a court system, and I believe that the Western systems are based on the Eastern systems, which are also based on the original African or Kemetian system.
I'm not sure if that's the case. I know that the Western systems seem to be based on Greek and Roman law, which you could argue was based on Kemetic law. But the basic point is that we've advanced to the point now. So even if I granted you that Kemet was the foundation,
yes,
we've come a long way. So it's like, let's say the foundation of building a house was a straw hut. We're now building concrete superstructures. So we have far surpassed a straw hut, and I would suggest the same is the case with, let's say, Western judicial system. You now have experts who spend 10 years studying this stuff, and they have experts across the board. I would suggest that that's a way more advanced system than for example, a tribe coming together and random lay
That
people
doesn't
trying
make
to make a
sense.
decision.
That doesn't make sense because we have superstructures in Africa.
No, wait, hold on.
Do you
Can
get
I
what I'm
ask a
saying?
question?
That we cannot replicate now. So, I mean, what do we say about those things?
Yeah, can I ask something quickly? Just based on that.
Can I touch on the topic?
Just to go back to what Rob was saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to say, you were saying is the Kemetic justice system better than the Euro? Remember, it's not about which one is better, it's which is more active in your area and where you're from. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we don't know. In Europe somewhere, they might have their own way of doing something and their own way of judging what is going on there. Do you know what I mean? Based upon their environment. Whereas in Africa, they have their way of, or there are certain tribes, they have their own way of judging a certain thing. It's not about our one is better than those people over there. It's just what's right for their culture. So also, and like going back to what you said now about the advancement of, you know, straw huts, going from straw huts and now advancing and having super mega structures. Now the thing is, you'd have to use your mind and think, is the super buildings actually much more advanced than the straw? Because let's look at the pros and cons of a super building. That's gonna take
steel.
Let's look at the pros and cons. That's gonna take steel. That's gonna take labor. What bad things are gonna come from that? You're gonna damage the environment. You know what I mean?
So hold on. Before you go in, yeah, just 1 second. I think the point, you know, do correct me if I'm you know, getting your point right, Rob. I think the point that Rob was trying to make is that we have, you know, how I explained it was a very basic structure, but from then, you know, for example, using the Western way of doing things, we have other, you know, groups of people that have built upon that particular structure and have made leaps and strides.
Exactly.
So should we now, you know, go back to that old system, or should we stick to the newer system that has made leaps and strides based upon the old system? If that's the way if that is what Rob is trying to actually say, and if that is what he's trying to say, I would always say to you, I will always say that you know, the Kemetic system was always progressive. It was never static. There is no staticness within inside of the Kemetic system. The staticness lies upon the principles, or the guiding principles, which we refer to as the nature. Those are the guiding principles that we all live by, but we're all supposed to advance in our knowledge. Science, which is the very key principle within inside of Ma'at. Ma'at itself literally means science. Okay, and we should always be building upon that type of knowledge. Of course, we talk about, you know, in our fourth, you know, the fourth concept within inside of the Kemetic creed is always giving reverence to our ancestors. That means that we should always be building upon what our ancestors, or the people who have, you know, we call them the Akhu, which literally means the effective ancestors or the effective predecessors, those people who have made great leaps and strides within inside of their particular field of industry. And we should be building upon that, keep on building and building and building. So in that sense, yes, Rob, we definitely should be going to the much more advanced way of doing things, as long as it aligns with the founding principles of Ma'at.
Can I?
And then, yes, carefully, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to go to Ansir as well.
Okay, now can everyone hear me?
Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna side with Rob on this one, as Kalam and Gabz have heard me say before, where the Kemet system was our great history. The Ethiopian system was part of that history and never stopped developing. So where the Kemet has a break within history, the Ethiopian system has all of those old aspects like the Ma'at and the Necher, you know, in our language and so on. But it also has the modern aspects like a complete and very high level of jurisprudence fit for the modern age. So the problem is when you fall back, and this is going to touch one of Gabz's earlier points about nature being sufficient, is that with the growth of population and with the interference we have in the modern world, the confusion has meant that mankind, the law of his heart is not sufficient for the modern age, because as you can see, everybody has his own way, so on. So this raises the question, needed a legal body contextualized and written down to govern the masses. And then I'm going to take that to a different level and ask, was it necessary for the creator to come down and provide us with the basis of that written law? Now, obviously, as an Orthodox Christian, in my belief system, I believe that man was not sufficient to move forward from the original ma'at into the modern. So therefore, it was necessary for the creator to come and to give him the foundation upon which African, Ethiopian, and modern European law is built upon the foundations of the Bible. Now, that's my first point. I just wanted to quickly touch on the other point that Rob made very quickly, because Rob was asking a question about the confined space argument. And I gather, and I want Rob to clarify whether his contention is that it's not possible for a supernatural being to create something out of nothing, or whether he's saying, as I said, Gabz was touching on earlier, that if God creates something, it has to necessarily infringe upon the space he already occupies. Now, in either case, whichever argument he was approaching, what I'm going to suggest, and there's possible two concepts. One is that whatever was created is physical. There's no problem with it sharing God's space, just as we all share the same oxygen. Two things can exist in one space and not necessarily cancel the other. But then the other possibility is the concept, which I kind of fall onto, that the creation itself is the product of a thought of God. It exists in God's thought. And the Bible says in Acts chapter 17, that's Acts chapter 17, verse 28, we live and move and have our being in him. So I take this to mean that we exist, not in the physical sense that we humans think of, but we exist solely in the mind of God. So we're not occupying his physical space, but we're occupying space in one thought of God.
Yeah, but so, can I answer to that?
Wait. Yeah. Let's hold that one. We're gonna hold that one.
Do you understand?
No, I want to answer all these points. I want to answer all those points that he brought up.
Before we do that, let me just make sure it's all fair and balanced. First, I'm going to get you to do that in a hot while. But first, I did promise our brother Ansir to come on, and then we can go back to this, okay? So just keep those thoughts in mind, but it'll be fair if I get Ansir on. Go ahead, Ansir.
Yeah, hi. I've been listening. A very interesting conversation. Morals is always a deep one, proper head scratching all the time. So I appreciate this is a tough one all the time for everyone to talk about. What I think it comes down to is that, like I say, with my naturalistic viewpoint about the world, is that in ancient times and ancient cultures, people had already evolved to work out, things like reciprocity. That's a tough one, and do unto others as you would do unto yourself. The golden rule, for example. These kind of things have been established in pretty much all societies, because it would be hard to survive if people didn't have some way of getting along with each other. We are a herd animal, that's quite obvious. So in those times, people had the instincts and the basic structures of justice, morality, decency, and that does work as a very good basis all across the board. So I think all that's happened is, as time has gone on, which is consistent with Kemetic understanding, consistent with moral and Western progress, is just that we have worked out how to be a bit more specific about day-to-day and specific circumstances where we have to apply the bigger assumptions of justice, morality, decency, reciprocity, etc. So I think that both viewpoints and both things can go hand in hand. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Can I say something, Kalam?
Rich Kid. Is it on? What topic is it on?
What Rob was saying about
justice. Go ahead. Go ahead quickly.
What he was saying about justice, I understand what Rob was saying. We can't really define justice, because in the Republic, you see, Socrates was having a conversation with Glaucon, and they couldn't really come to an understanding what justice is. I think justice is subjective, but I think what Kalam was trying to say, because we came up with a set of rules of do's or don'ts, which we call ma'at, if you live by those principles, then one will behave justly to his fellow man. So therefore, you can't really define what justice is or isn't. We don't work like that. If Kalam study those principles and I consider him a just person because of those principles, then we act on those principles, basically. That's what I want to say.
Perfect. Perfect. Well said. That's my akhiru right there. That's well said. All right. Gabs, I know you want to get in. Go ahead, King.
Yo, bro.
Go on, take off the gloves.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, and that was my point that I was going to go into, just to piggyback on what Rich Kid said as well. You got to realize, remember, Ma'at was made in that culture for that people. Do you see what I'm saying? That is what those people in that culture made up for their system. Whereas to other cultures, they might have made up their own Ma'at, which they thought was a just way to act and do the way they do their things. Do you see what I'm saying? That was just their culture and how they thought to govern their people in that particular environment in which they were living. Also, I want to go back to what the brother said. What's it, Kelfi? What was the two things you said? Because I might have forgot. There was two long things. What was the first thing you said? The first point.
Okay, can I say very basically what they were, but do justice to them. I essentially said that in the first case, that the Ethiopian continued where the Kemetic left off, and therefore we do hold to the principle that Rob is espousing, that there needs to be more than a subjective level because society grew, etc. But then on the second argument, I said that we exist. The Bible says we live in Him and exist and have our being in Him. 17:28, which essentially means that we are a thought in God's mind, that we don't occupy a physical space, contrary where God is, and trying to wrestle God for physical space, but we exist in one thought in God's mind. Okay.
All right, cool. One thing I wanted to say is I was gonna try to understand. It's like you were separating the Kemet and the Ethiopians, because remember the Ethiopians would be a branch or people of the Kemet people. They're a part of them. They're not different, because it's making it sound, the way you made it sound was like the Ethiopians are different people and the people of Kemet are different people, but that's not the case.
Just to be correct, I'm not saying that because I understand that it's a civilization we're dealing with. I'm saying that we're historically Kemetic, kind of, there's been a broken link with Egypt. Ethiopia today exists with an unbroken link back to ancient times. That's what I'm saying.
Which broken link though? I'm trying to confuse. Which broken link are you saying? Because if those are the same, that's like saying if those are the same people, if those are, let's just say if those are all the same people, because remember this is prior to you have the people Ethiopian. Let's just say the whole Kemet civilization. Now, if we are all in one area now, we're all in one in one place. We're all in one location, and in one particular location, things are happening, like let's just say war and invasion. So things are happening over there. So now people are now moving. That's what will happen. If there's an invasion, people will then move to different parts of the one location. Some will stay, some will flee to the east, some will flee to the west, some will go south. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to understand this is, at what point are you saying that the link was broken off? Because surely they will still continue that same thought.
Okay. What I want to say to you is that, like, even according to some Ethiopian scholars, like the leadership of Kemet was a question of, like, it was more like a dynasty kind of thing where the most powerful king of the region would rule. So we believe that some of the dynasties, or some of them, included Ethiopians from the highlands. What I'm saying is, so let me just finish this, is that I'm not saying an unbroken link. What I'm saying is that particular Kemetic name, so to speak, took the history up until a certain point where man started talking about Ma'at and Neche and so on, which is a valid part of the history. But I'm saying what's been happening in Ethiopia since that time is that Ethiopia, unbroken link history-wise, has been continuing and developing on from those concepts, where you go today and Ethiopia is dealing with all that was being dealt with, and has also included in their social systems all these newer modern elements. Whereas I'm saying you can't find a tribe today necessarily in Egypt saying we're Kemetic and we've been here since XBC. You understand? I'm saying man are resurrecting it, So I'm saying, why not just come over to the Ethiopian and accept that it has all the Kemetic aspects in there too, but also has the newer aspects.
No,
Okay.
but that's okay. Go on, Ifa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point you made, brother. But you just have to understand that, I mean, life continues. Life was continuing all over the continent. So as we said, the different mystery systems or the different cultural systems of the Ethiopians, of the South Africans, of the West Africans, of the Malians, you know, is all contained within Kemet. Do you get what I'm saying? Eventually.
Sure. Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. That
Yeah.
life
So
continues.
what we're saying is, and what we're saying also, I mean, the form of justice that we were dealing with were in smaller communities. Do you get what I'm saying? Until we started with the invention of a big city. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, living in a city requires different laws, different things can happen. So I understand what Rob's saying, but I find it hard that the Kemetians necessarily would conceptualize good and evil. They knew about agreeable and disagreeable. They knew that if someone did something wrong or killed someone, what forms of justice they could receive in return, like getting thrown to the crocodiles or something. Do you get what I'm saying? So
you're correct. And if you look, I'm saying an Ethiopian system today, one of such is called the Abageda. The Abageda system is it's an ancient Kushite system where it's all about, you know, hierarchy through eldership. Judgments are made sitting around the tree and the tribes and so on. But what I'm saying is, although that still exists, and ones can check it out, it's called the Abageda system. Although that exists, what I'm saying is that new systems have been added, as you said, to compensate for the fact of the growth and population spreading and the complexities and the modern world. You understand? So I'm saying that we can still accept that there is that system, but I'm not going to be sitting here arguing with Rob as if that my old system is the only system I have, when I have modern systems like he has modern systems. Then I'm saying, so the Kemetic, let's not argue on that one.
No, well, I'm saying I'm agreeing with both of you, but I don't think you both see the historical and anthropological and archaeological facts. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just time. If one came before the other, if one came before the other, and one came out of the other. So we know that the Kemet system goes all the way to Greco-Roman.
Correct.
Do you understand? So the Greeks and the Romans would have the Kemet system within their systems.
Agreed.
So now we're using, in modern day, we're using the Senate in one, you know, diaspora of the world, like in the Americas. Do you get what I'm saying? And then in Europe, we're using another system, which is based on the old Moorish system, which they're calling maritime law or admiralty law, which is a law of Africans at a particular time in history. So it's just, you know, overstanding, and titles have been put onto people and borders and location where that was not necessarily back in ancient times.
Let me just to finish, because I think we'll basically agree, and I don't know whether Rob would agree, but I agree with you that all the systems are coming out of those initial systems.
That's correct.
I'm just simply saying that let's not stop and act as if that's the only system. But I must say to you that you see those Abageda systems and all of that around the tree stuff, that is all predicated on the understanding that one's are mentally and spiritually of a certain level.
I agree with you.
If ones are not on a certain level, them kind of systems can't work, because people are going on with all kind of badness in the tribes.
I agree with you. Now, what I tend to think is that the modern systems that we have, we assume they work and they're fantastic, and you know, life is perfect, and no, that's not necessarily true. Now, the reason why we could think of going back to the older systems is the fact that even medically, do you get what I'm saying? Even scientifically, they're going back to those old systems. They're going back to the village to find remedies and blah, 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 because all this science and medical processes, they're not getting anywhere. So they have to go back to basics. So if we're saying you can go back to basics medically, if you can go back to basics for ancient remedies that actually apply in modern day, do you get what I'm saying?
Also, you can.
Right. So it would make sense that if we started to go back to the older systems, that when they were in their golden age, I mean, not many ages had a golden age, but obviously if Kemet had a golden age, we look at that particular part. We know that Kemet did fall in a sense. Do you get what I'm saying? But that is a consequence of being in a city or in a society or in a civilization.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
village life never ends in a sense. Do you get what I'm saying?
I respect what you're saying, and yeah, I think when you look at like a lot of the like for example, there was a time in Ethiopia where the British actually invaded and stole a lot of books or took a lot of the books, and it is said that those books today in the libraries are still being searched out and used for a lot of the innovations. And it's not just the books of Ethiopia, but of Morocco, of Egypt, you know, from all over Africa, as you said, which find their origin in the tribal traditions.
Yes, correct.
So I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
Yeah, so I agree with you also that, yeah, I mean, if we go back to any of the Kemet is not the be all and end all, it's just an example.
Yeah.
But it's a good example because it was a place of study and learning. The name Kemet, yeah, relates to chemistry. Do you get what I'm saying? That's where the word chemistry came from. So, you know, they were studying chemistry, they were studying alchemy, they were doing, you know, they were studying the stars, they were doing all these things. And some of these things come with time.
100%.
Because first you start with agriculture. Once we got enough food and we can eat, then we can sit down and philosophize about building a superstructure. And only if we got enough time in our society and everything is running smooth, can we do such things. Then after we can take time and admire that work and move on to other things. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think sometimes in what people say, they downplay the technology and the knowledge of the ancient civilizations.
Yes.
Because if you look at India, for example, how is anyone going to explain a Vimana? And you know a Vimana is a spaceship. So the concepts of spaceship is thousands of years old. It's just that only in modern time we've been able to create one. Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah, like a space rocket to fly to space is more or less the same thing.
Well, that's a whole different topic because maybe Kalam wants to do a show on whether, you know, one's actually believe that man has entered space, and because that's a whole different. But I think Gabz wanted to respond, and Rob might want to respond because I made a second point regarding the you know, because the way Gabz, and I think I hope Gabz is listening, or Rob, the way that they tend to contextualize it as if we are battling for space with God, and I'm simply saying that we are a manifestation within the thought of God. We exist in the mind of God, not in this physical space.
Oh,
I agree with that.
No, hello. Yeah, that's what I was gonna jump to that. Yeah, I was trying to understand. Yeah, what did you think I said, and what was you trying to?
No, because I've heard you a few times in the past, and from what I gather, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Is you're asking that where are we? It basically your point is that if God occupies all space, then where could we possibly be other than inside God in some way or form? And I'm saying that we don't exist physically inside God, although that is one possible option, and I don't know everything, but my understanding of reading the Bible in Acts chapter 17 verse 28 is that we exist in a thought of God. That's why we Christians, we believe in the Logos, which is the mind, the thought of God, and the Logos created everything. We are in Him, not physically battling with Him. You
see the brother?
No.
Brother, with the Bible, I can only ask one question. I mean, as I know it, the concept of the Bible is a 6,000-year-old story, and that, you know, that kind of falls short compared to some of the ancient civilizations that existed on the planet. You know what I'm saying? So
But
hold on.
the wisdom is timeless.
Before we get there, can I just deal with that question he's talking about
Yeah, and Rob, I'd like to hear Rob because Rob raised it also.
Okay, because one, I don't know where you got. I didn't mention that we're battling with God, some physical battle with God at all. All I'm saying is, all I was saying was obviously the creation from nothing. If all that existed was just God, yeah. If all that existed was just God prior to creation, yeah. That means all I'm saying is then if all there was is God, then the creation would have to be God. There is no separate space. There is nothing. There's no creating from nothing. That was my point. Now you just said that we existed in the thought. So the thought, that we existed in Allah, was that physical, or was it? You know what I mean? What was that thought? Because that thought would have been prior to creation. Now, if that thought is prior to creation, and it's God's thought, because all there is God, then us, the creation, everything that was in that thought was eternal and is God. Because his thought didn't just arrive at a certain time, unless you're telling me something popped up in his mind and he thought, okay, I'm going to create. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, Brother Gabz, I'm simply, and I'm not going to take too long because perhaps Rob was that. I'm just going to say that, I'm just putting forward a possible with a passage in Scripture which says we live, move, and have our being in Him. So I see it that way. We believe that in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. So I'm saying that we exist in Him, which in the Logos. That's all I'm saying. So, and what I want to say is that when you have a thought, Gabz, and how long that thought continues. You can think about something in your mind, and I don't know whether that thought is actually you. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't know. I'm saying that as we sit here now, exists in the mind of God.
But the difference.
God is maintaining it, and He is entering in and out of it as He wills. This is the complexity of God.
But the difference between us and God is that my thought, I can forget my thoughts. My thoughts can go, I can even forget them. Anything I can think of, I can forget. But can God forget His thoughts?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying, which is the difference between me and God, is that when God has a thought, it becomes a thing. Like you're going to touch the wall next to you or your computer, and it's going to be real in it. But I'm saying that all exists in God, in it. God's holding all that together in His mind.
Yeah, that's fine. But all I'm saying is that is God. That's not nothing else. You see what I'm saying? That's just God. Because if there's nothing. Remember, listen to what I said. There's nothing besides God. Because now what you're trying to make it sound like is that God's thoughts is something else and not Him.
No, what I'm saying is that
if it's only Him. So this is the point that me and Rob was talking about. If there's just a jar of water, there's only water in the jar. If a fish randomly comes out from there, where would it have come from? It would have come from the water. It would have to be the water. So if there's only God, remember, there's nothing else. It's just only God prior to creation, only Him, and He's got thoughts of things. It's only going to be Him. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not, the thoughts ain't going to be something different.
No, but this is not most definitely a philosophical question. Are you your thoughts? Is God's thought God? Now, I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to sit. But wait a second. No, because you're saying it has to be. I'm saying philosophically, I don't know if it has to be. I'm just putting forward one possible hypothesis using chapter 17:28 and saying that if we are just a thought in the mind of God, which God is interacting with, right, and has its being in God, then I don't necessarily see any evidence or reason to suggest that because when you think, like you have a thought about something, you're not necessarily that thought, although that thought comes from you. You're not the actual thought, are you?
No, but what you're doing, you're using a human like me, my thoughts, and God. God is the all, remember. God is all in everything. prior to creation, remember, my thoughts only come about due to my experiences and what I see in nature. That's when I start thinking things. So what I see, smell, touch, hear, yeah, my thoughts start running wild. But we're dealing with God right now. Forget, there's no physical things around for God to see, touch, and smell for him to get thoughts. You see what I'm saying? So there isn't things around him that he saw that made him thought, okay, I'm going to think of this and I'm going to think to do this. No, it's just him. So if it's only him, no, but I'm saying, but what I'm trying to say is if it's only him, can you imagine this? If it's only him and things is in his mind, those things would have been in his mind eternally. It didn't just pop up. You're saying it like it's just me, like things just pop up in my mind, like, okay, because I see something, I might get a thought and be like, oh, okay, well, I've seen this. Maybe what would happen if I do this and this? So, for example, if I see peanut butter and I see jam and I have bread, a thought might pop into my mind and go, wow, I wonder what happened if I mix the two. But to God, yeah, there is nothing like that around him. It's just him. So whatever he's thinking about is just him. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay, can I?
And then whatever he manifests is just him into the physical.
Okay, the Christian understanding, the Orthodox Christian, is that in eternity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are in unity and in peace, and the Father sent forth the Logos, his word, and the word with authority created everything. Right? So when God has sent forth his Son, the word, to do what he wishes to do, the word has chosen to create the universe. Now I'm saying that where he came forth, which is God the Father, word was initially comes out from the Father as a thought or as his Logos by definition. So I'm saying we all exist in him, in the Logos, in the word of God, in the thought of God.
But is the word God?
The word is God.
Okay, and who's the word? Us.
No, the word is the word is the word.
So then what are we?
God has essence, the Father.
So what are we in the word?
Let me explain to you. I'm going to explain to you. God has, which we call the Father. He has life, which we call the Holy Spirit, and he has mind, which we call the Word of the Logos. Now, I'm saying that we exist within the Logos, within the mind of God.
Okay, and what are we called then? So what are we? You're saying we exist. We can't exist. What are we?
We are a manifestation of the word or of the thought.
Okay, so I just said to you, what is the word?
The word is God.
So if you just said we are the word, then what are we?
No, I'm not saying we are the word. I'm saying that
you just said we're the word.
I said the word is God, and that the word we are a manifestation of a thought of the word or of the creation of the word.
Nah, bro, you're confusing yourself now. Just break it slowly because you said it already. I just said to you, what are we? And you just said we are the word. Then I asked you and said, what is the word? And you said the word is God. So then now, if the word is God and we are the word.
Well, I don't believe I did say we are the word.
Okay, so let me break it down even more.
Driving to a particular conclusion.
I'm not. I'm saying
what I'm saying to you is we are, just as you can think of bread, jam, and peanut butter, right? You have to have seen those things because of the limited nature of your mind to conceive those things. Who is God does not have to have seen a thing in order to conceive the thing. Therefore, he can create the thing. Now,
from where? Create the thing from where?
He's beyond us. This is why he's God.
So this is my point. So this is my point.
I'm saying he has conceptualized everything.
But this is my point now.
But wait a second. Can I finish? And then I'll listen to you.
No, but I hear what you're saying, because what you're getting into is basically what the Muslims are saying, and saying that he could create from nothing. Because if we're only saying it's only God, where would the creation have come from?
But I'm saying to you that the word can conceptualize a thing without having seen the thing. And this it's amazing to say that this very word who conceptualized us came to us.
The word came to us. So what are we then? What are we?
We are a conceptualization. We exist and have our being in the word who conceptualized us.
So we're in the word, yes?
Answer, Gabz.
let
Are
me just
we
ask a
in?
No,
question.
hold on, wait, bro. Let me finish because I'm trying to make this right. So we're in the word, and what is the word? If we're in the word, what is the word?
No, but when you say we're in the word, Gabs, right?
You said
Again,
I didn't say that. You said we're in the word. So if we're in the
correction.
word, what is the word?
We are in the mind of the word. Call it then. Which the
We're
word
in the mind of the
conceptualized
word.
us. He created us. He conceptualized us. And I'm saying what God.
Am I the only one hearing this? I don't know if I'm the only one hearing this, but for some reason the brother's saying we're in the word. We are the word.
No.
Do you know
God
what? Yeah. Do you know what? Right now,
becomes reality.
right now, it seems though we're lost in the source. We're lost in the mind of God.
We're lost in the mind of God.
So I don't want to go down this path. I want to just expand a little bit because we actually have run overtime, like way overtime. We're at our 3rd hour mark right now, and it's a hype to always be breaking down these shows. So what I want to do is let's see who we got here. Who hasn't spoken as of yet? Is there anybody here who hasn't spoken? Okay, cool. So I'm going to go quickly to Ayan, and then afterwards, I'm going to open up to somebody else before we close out.
Okay.
Corey hasn't spoken.
Okay, thank you for everything. And I think we'll stay a long time talking. Maybe next time I'll come again. Look out for come back on live and then we'll talk again. Blessing to you all. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace. Corey. I'm hearing that Corey hasn't spoken. Okay. If you haven't, okay. For those people who don't want to speak, please just drop out so we can make some room for other people. So Corey, do you want to speak? 3, 2, 1. Nope.
I'm happy to. Okay. Sorry. Carry on, Kalam.
So real quickly, I'm going to post the link with inside of the chat section. So if you guys want to come in and join, please come in right now and join because there is 2 spaces open. Okay. So yeah, Rob, go ahead, King.
Yeah, just the conversation with Gabz and Kalfi, I think it is, kind of went off in a side direction. The main point, just to get back on that very quickly, is all we want to talk about is where the material came from. I'm not interested in whether the word created or we're part of the word or whatever, because creation process is word, thought, deed. I'm interested in the deed part and where did that material come from. That's the only part I'm interested in. I'm not interested in whether we were in God's mind or whatever the case is. That's a complete tangent. All I want to know is if God was all there was, he's omnipotent, eternal, and infinite, how did this universe come about? The material, the atoms that we are sitting with today, if that did not come from the essence of God, where did it come from? That's the only question I want you to answer.
Yep. Thank
Carefully.
Is that from you, Rob?
Yep.
Well, again, because I'm simply going to repeat to you that I'm saying that if you stop now and have a thought and you think of anything, that existed has been in your mind in a real sense, but it doesn't exist eternally or doesn't become a physical reality. No, I'm saying the difference between us and God is that God can create something in his mind, have a thought, and have that thought become what is a physical reality, which is where we exist. So I'm saying you have God, where God truly exists eternally. We are not physically in that space with him, but we are physically existing within a thought that God, the word, has.
So let me get this right. So we are physically existing in the mind of God.
Yes.
So is it God's? Is it God's? Are we a byproduct of God's mind then?
Of course.
Okay, and is God's mind physical in any way, shape, or form?
God is spirit, in essence. So he can create in his mind something which, to all extent and purposes to us, appears to have, to be infinite and to, people look and think it's never going to pass. But as the Bible says, all of this will pass away and God will create it all anew.
So let me just get it there. So God's mind is immaterial, but his thoughts are physical.
God can create things which to all intents and purposes, in our mind, appear to be physical, or what we call physical.
But in actuality, it could be illusionary.
No, but what you call immaterial is immaterial in the human sense, and what we call physical is physical in the human sense. But I'm saying God encompasses all of those, the spectrum of what you consider to be physical to immaterial. So when God chooses to create us, we are essentially what we are. And, you know, if you want to, we put the name physical to it, doesn't in any way limit God and say, oh, well, if God's immaterial by our definition, he cannot then go along the spectrum and create certain things which by our definition appear to be physical.
So let me get this right. So, you know, I'm getting lost in the source. So can I say to you that God's immaterial nature can convert itself and become material?
I mean, now you're touching on two questions. What I would ask you is, can you as a so-called physical being think of an immaterial thought?
Yes.
Okay, in that very same way that you can conceptualize you, physically you can sit there and imagine a Ferrari immaterially, God can sit there, so to speak, immaterially and conceptualize you physically.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to move on to D-Red or Abdul. Is anybody there that would like to come on?
Yeah, peace, Kalam. You can let my brother D-Red go because I just came in on the conversation.
All right, cool. Go ahead, D-Red.
Yeah, I just was y'all was talking about, I guess, ancient civilizations or whatever, and I was just listening to y'all. I'm gonna let y'all continue, let the conversation continue to flow wherever it flow to, and then I guess we can double back on that a little bit later. But I just want to comment on that.
Okay. I'm looking to close down the show like ASAP though. So is there any last things that anybody would like to just bring in?
Hello.
Go ahead, Ezra.
Yo, Cap.
Go ahead, King.
Oh, go on. Yeah. Just listening to what the brother was saying, and some of that stuff is biblical. Some of it, that's the thing, like Ty says, we have to just speak on what we know, you know what I'm saying? And what you don't know, just leave it there. Because basically what it is, what you are getting mixed up with the Bible is, all right, and you understand that energy is it can't be destroyed. All that stuff, you understand? Like everything must have came from energy. Well, the Bible describes energy as spirit. That's the thing. It's like Ty says again, it's the words in the Bible that makes people confused. When they hear God and spirit, stuff like that. Spirit is just, it's like another word for energy. So when you hear verses that are saying there is one spirit that is above all, in us all, and through us all, you change that to energy now and it just makes perfect sense. There's one energy that's above us all, through us all, and in us all. You know what I'm saying? Everything makes sense when you think about it. This arcade in the creation story now. It's just simple. This is one spirit. His word is the create. Okay, then it manifests itself in different characters and different. I can't even explain it.
Yeah, I'm listening to you then, and
sorry,
and
the one
you
energy.
you don't seem to make sense to me. You don't seem to make sense that you're conflating two words and trying to make them sound or be the same, and they're simply not. Most people do not understand energy to be God. If you ask most theists on this planet, they will not say God is energy. You're saying that, and you're saying, oh, well, spirit and energy are the same. I mean, you're just conflating, you're using two words to make them sound the same, and they really aren't.
No, I'm not, mate. Because if you understand, if you have any understanding, yeah, what is spirit? You tell me what a spirit is.
Well, I don't believe there is a spirit, so you have to demonstrate there is such a thing.
You don't believe there is a spirit. So, okay, then. You've got a mind, you've got a body. What is the energy that's inside of you? Like, what is it?
What do you mean, what is the energy inside of me?
Yeah, but like, okay, then. How do you explain
I have consciousness, a mind, and I have a body.
How do you explain the energy? Obviously, your flesh and bones. What is it that makes you make a decision? What is it that makes you walk around?
Consciousness and my mind.
Consciousness gives you the energy to run around and stuff like that.
My mind, consciousness.
I'm talking about actually energy, actual energy. What is it that makes a plant? What is it that gives a plant the power?
Photosynthesis.
Exactly, the sun. Is that in a human form?
You got to stop walking around, dude. You're dropping out. I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm saying, what is that in a human form? That what you call photosynthesis. How does that work?
That's a process of the sun's rays hitting a plant, and the plant taking that heat and light in and processing it and making biological more of a plant.
Yeah, but I'm saying like in human form now. How would you explain that?
What do you mean in human form? I just explained it in scientific form. Why do you want to anthropomorphize it?
I'm saying, yeah, in the Bible is explaining energy as spirit. Yeah, the word energy is in there. Obviously, Latin, when the Torah was wrote, wasn't speaking in English. The word that is using for energy is spirit.
Why do we need to look at the Bible though in any way? What has the Bible got to tell us?
What do you mean? What has it got to tell you?
In other words, why should we refer to the Bible? I don't think the Bible has got any value to share with us. It's an ancient mythological book like the Book of Zeus. Why do we need to refer to the Bible in any way?
Evolution. So what, you believe in Darwin science? That's your belief.
I believe in the modern synthesis of evolution. Correct.
A model synthesis. Okay, then. And is there any evidence behind that?
So much of it that it would take an entire show. I'm not an expert. I could bring an expert on and he would dazzle you with the information.
It's called a theory for a reason. It's a scientific theory. Yeah.
Do you know what a scientific?
I think you've gone far off topic a bit, though.
Scientific laws and scientific theories are two total different things. Understand? If it was a proven fact and scientists could prove it, it would become scientific law, Rob. You understand this?
But brother, the Bible.
And not only would it be called a scientific law, they even have what's called a scientific fact. So when when people don't even understand the processes that goes to create a scientific law and a scientific theory and a scientific fact, you would have to go with a hypothesis. Then you start with a working hypothesis. Then you start with a theory. According to the definition of a theory, evolution don't even fit the definition of a theory. It's only it's a working hypothesis. They still haven't even worked out all the kinks of it because you still can't.
This is the
that's actual fact. Because show me where evolution has been replicated. Show me where evolution has been observed.
Yeah, you can't observe it. You can't test it.
And if you hold on, bro. If you replicate it in a closed system, that means it's gonna have to show intelligence to have been able to replicate it. You can't show me evolution being observed in an open system. So you don't even know what you're talking about.
Fails every single part of
Just
every part.
Exactly. So it don't even qualify as a theory. Gravity is a law because gravity can be substantiated. If evolution was able to be fully substantiated, it would be a law. It would have been moved to a law. It's still a theory, and it really don't even fit the qualification of a theory.
Yeah. So
okay. Can I get you guys to mute your mics, please? Okay. Rob, would you like to quickly respond to that?
I don't think there's a lot of point there, Kalam. I think the gentlemen are. Oops, sorry. I don't think the gentlemen understand what a scientific theory is. I've put it into the chat there. I would suggest they go and look that up because there's a lot of confusion here. I don't think we're going to get very far here. If these guys don't believe in evolution, well, it would take an entire show, and I'm not the expert. I could bring somebody on, but I don't think they would accept it no matter what evidence was brought towards them. So, and just by hearing them talk about scientific theory and confusing it with what laymen talk about as a theory, I think we're a long way away from this.
Okay, thank you. So, you know what, family, we've actually.
Can I respond to that right quick?
Maybe later.
All right.
So you know what, we've actually reached the end of the show right about now. So family members, let me know if you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, yeah, there's only 76 likes right now, and there's over 100 odd people watching. So please let me see the like count just rise slightly, ever so slightly. What I'm looking for is about 90 likes before we end the show. Let me know, family, if you really enjoyed the show. Come on. You're saying great show. You know, so what I'm going to do right now is post the link, okay? If you guys would like to join in with us, because I'm going to close down this live section of the show because we're going way too long. I'm going to have to cut this show. So if you would like to join us right now, I'm going to post the link right now for you to join, okay? And shout outs to Kefli Johannes for joining us as well. Rashid Ali says, always a great show. That was fire. Everybody's saying they love the show, so that's good. I love it. So yeah, family, I'm going to close the show out, but we're going to continue this conversation right now behind closed doors. Again, thanks to the medicine man for coming in and you know, blessing us with that medicine. We've also had 9 Ethers in the building, Kefli, Rich Kid, the Kabbalah King, Speakers Corner UK, which is my brother Rob, Stefano, D Red, Abdul, and of course Ezra as well. So peace and love to the family. I will catch you guys on the other side. Peace.